Chapter 101 to 101 Organized Life. You actually found it. Su Wei and his pill furnace were both surprised. The Kylan blood was hard to come by in the 9 provinces. Where did he find it? Once the Kylan blood was found, it was vital to start alchemy immediately. If too much time passed and it became stale, a pure-blooded pill couldn't be created. Zhang Li took out a drop of Kylan blood, suspended it in the palm of his hand, wrapped it in spiritual power, and handed it to Su Wei. Su Wei rubbed his hands together excitedly. He had never had the chance to refine a pure-blooded pill using Kylan blood before. Stand back, let me do it. The Red Crow Furnace and Su Wei were eager to do alchemy, but ultimately Zhang Li determined that Su Wei should do it, and the Red Crow Furnace obediently served as a pill furnace. Although the Red Crow Furnace's alchemy skills could indeed be better than Su Wei's, it was far too whimsical in its methods. There was no telling what it would come up with. Zhang Li saw that Su Wei's child disciple was casually treating the Great Revitalization Pill as a ball to kick around. The system, which hardly ever provided valuable information, had actually given him a drop of Kylan blood. Zhang Li didn't want the Red Crow Furnace to refine it into some strange medicinal pill. Zhang Li had spoken, and the Red Crow Furnace wouldn't dare disobey. It dutifully assumed its responsibility as a pill furnace. A pure-blooded white Kylan had a unique ability. It could know anything, as long as that thing happened in the 9 provinces. However, this ability had its limits. Before reaching the Transcendence Tribulation stage, this ability could only be used once. After reaching the Transcendence Tribulation stage, it could be used 3 times. Zhang Li wanted to make the White Marsh Emperor a pure-blooded white Kylan so that it could find the heavenly immortal level heavenly demon. There were, of course, many things that Zhang Li wanted to know, but none of them were as important as the heavenly demon. The heavenly immortal level extraterrestrial heavenly demon hidden within the 9 provinces was a thorn in Zhang Li's side. He could not rest easy until it was dealt with. Leaving aside the rank of the heavenly demon, the matter of the god-hidden cult alone was enough to plunge the 9 provinces into the abyss of the demonic path, causing chaos. And at the heavenly immortal rank, the only possible challengers in the entire 9 provinces were Zhang Li and the doubtful heavenly immortal red dust fairy. The creation of the pure-blooded pill required 7 days. Zhang Li patiently waited. On the 6th day, the system suddenly issued a mission. Mission issued. Nightfall. You want to take a bath in the lake, but unexpectedly, a mysterious white-haired woman is also bathing in the lake. The two of you meet and scream. The opponent, whose strength remains unfathomable, wants to teach you a painful lesson. Please dodge the white-haired woman's lesson. This mission is not recommended to be abandoned. No reward. You can spend 500 origin points to get a system hint. You can spend 50,000 origin points to acquire information about the mysterious white-haired woman. Spend 500 origin points. System hint. You can show her that you have Kylan blood. Spend 50,000 origin points. White Snow Spirit. Current White Marsh Emperor, Body Integration Realm. Father is the previous White Marsh Emperor, and mother is a pure-blooded Kylan. Both parents died at the hands of the heavenly demon. Expressing your hatred for the heavenly demon could increase her goodwill. As she is of mixed Kylan blood, she is not recognized by mystical beasts. The 8 great vassal kings do not obey her orders and have plans to usurp the throne. Disrupting the forces of the 8 great vassal kings can increase her goodwill. She has been poisoned by the vassal kings and is grievously injured. Her strength is at less than 1% of its normal level, and the antidote is hard to come by. Offering her an antidote can increase her goodwill. System hint. You can purchase this from the shop. Making a pure-blooded pill requires Kylan blood. Offering her Kylan blood can make her very fond of you. Offering her a pure-blooded pill can make her like you. Zhang Li felt as though 50,000 mud horses were rushing through his heart. Damn it. No wonder the previous system mission recommended completion. It had been waiting for him here. You're playing a dating simulation game, aren't you? Zhang Li frowned. If he did not know that providing the pure-blooded pill would make the White Marsh Emperor fall for him, he would certainly have given it to her. However, knowing that she would fall for him if he offered the pure-blooded pill made him uncomfortable. It made him feel as though the White Marsh Emperor was being manipulated, as if she was just a tool of the system. Rarely had Zhang Li ever felt a hint of disgust toward the system. The system was divided into 2 parts. One was used for normal function, which was very convenient for Zhang Li, saving him a lot of trouble. The other part was the regular system-mandated missions, which were part of the system's original timeline. That meant that Zhang Li's life path had been predetermined by the system upon his arrival in this new world. Zhang Li could predict that, on the system's timeline, he would have been at the Foundation establishment stage, unable to afford the 50,000 origin point cost. However, he could afford the 500 origin point hint and would have taken out the Kylan blood, winning the White Marsh Emperor's goodwill, leading to an ambiguous relationship, and perhaps even more. He could have accepted that because he wouldn't have been able to see the contents of the 50,000 origin point purchase, thus he wouldn't have known that doing so would have increased the White Marsh Emperor's goodwill. Zhang Li couldn't understand the system's existence, and he could choose not to think about why the system had predetermined his life. He didn't care, since he was already at the Mahayana realm, the strongest in the 9 provinces. The system couldn't affect him, he could simply choose not to do the missions. What he couldn't stand, however, was that the system also predetermined others' lives. Even worse, the system had turned their goodwill into a commodity. What was the system, exactly? Zhang Li had pondered this question before and reached no conclusion. Now, as he pondered this question again, he still couldn't figure it out. White Marsh Emperor, I have a question for you. 7 days later, Zhang Li sought out the White Marsh Emperor at the White Marsh dynasty. White Snow Spirit's hair was as white as snow, and she wore a short-sleeved short skirt, with a tall and elegant figure that could topple empires. She was sitting in a pavilion, meeting Zhang Li. Her hands were overlaid on her white, round thighs. The light penetrated through her white hair, making her entire person seem transparent, as though she were walking out of a painting. Mystical beasts were unreserved, their clothing vastly different from those of the reserved human tribe. They were condemned by the scholars as uncultured, yet many cultivators enjoyed the unreserved aspects of the mystical beasts. Please speak, human emperor. White Snow Spirit was slightly surprised. She had interacted with Zhang Li on multiple occasions, and it was rare for him to appear so serious. If I give you a pure-blooded pill, enabling you to become a pure-blooded white Kylan, will you fall for me? Zhang Li asked directly, without hiding anything. White Snow Spirit blinked, processing what Zhang Li was saying. Then, her face turned red and she looked slightly angry. Human Emperor, this is not a funny joke. I'm not joking. Zhang Li shook his head earnestly. He opened a small wooden box, and the fragrant scent of the pill filled the air. It was a pure-blooded pill refined with Kylan blood. This was a pill that White Snow Spirit had always dreamed of having. However, she didn't look pleased. Instead, she was angry at Zhang Li's actions. You mean to say that you'll only give me the pure-blooded pill if I fall for you? You're overdoing it. You're misunderstanding. Zhang Li explained, I heard from someone that you were poisoned by a vassal king 500 years ago and suffered a serious injury. If there was a Foundation establishment stage cultivator back then who had seen your body and could present a pure-blooded pill, you would have fallen for him. Is that true? Seeing that Zhang Li was speaking as though he had witnessed it himself, as though he wasn't joking, White Snow Spirit put herself in that scenario and thought about it. With a resigned nod, she admitted, I don't know who you heard that from, but if it were as you said, I suppose I might have fallen for that young cultivator. Chapter 102-102, I am also mysterious. I don't know who told you, but if it's true, as you said, it's indeed possible that I could fall for that young monk, acknowledged White Snow Spirit, somewhat helplessly and somewhat annoyed. She didn't know who had figured her out so thoroughly. So, if I were to give you the pure blood pill now, would you fall for me? Zhang Li asked curiously. White Snow Spirit chuckled at Zhang Li's question. Zhang, the human emperor, the circumstances and statuses are different. Even if the same action is performed, it might not yield the same result. Seeing that Zhang Li still looked puzzled, she continued explaining, at that time, I was severely poisoned, betrayed by the Kylan king, who was my own brother. I was distraught and vulnerable. If someone aided me then, I would naturally develop a dependent mindset, regardless of whether they were at the Foundation establishment stage or Mahayana realm. Besides, as you said, a young monk at the Foundation establishment stage being able to produce a pure blood pill, doesn't it indicate that he is very mysterious? Mysterious men have a unique charm that is very attractive. Zhang Li couldn't help but say, I am also very mysterious. For instance, even without the pure blood white marsh in the world, I can still get white marsh blood and refine the pure blood pill. White Snow Spirit couldn't help but roll her eyes. If it wasn't for her image, she'd even want to facepalm. Zhang, the human emperor, do you know what you represent to us? Please enlighten me. You are the embodiment of mystery in my eyes. Regardless if you take out White Marsh's blood, or even reverse time and space, overturn cause and effect, reach the pinnacle of enlightenment, I wouldn't find it strange. Did you see me waver even slightly when you took out the pure blood pill earlier? Of course not, White Snow Spirit said as a matter of fact. What I was thinking then was, oh, the human emperor took out the pure blood pill. That's very normal. White Snow Spirit added, I wasn't surprised at all. You mentioned that the young monk saw my naked body. I might need to kill him, yet he could still produce a pure blood pill. If I killed him, I wouldn't be able to find the pure blood pill anymore. I'd be extremely conflicted. When I was caught up in this conflict, it implied that I was fixated on him. This young monk would then have the chance to win my heart. Combined with a string of coincidences, such as me being poisoned, and him being very gentle, it is highly likely that I'd fall for him. Now you understand that it isn't like I'd fall for anyone who gives me a pure blood pill. It requires a series of coincidences for me to develop feelings for someone. I see. Zhang Li was enlightened, realizing that this matter was indeed convoluted. So, can you tell me who knows me so well? Was it my foolish Kylan King brother? As White Snow Spirit said this, a hint of murderous intent flashed across her eyes. Logically speaking, she should have killed her brother long ago. However, the Kylan is a divine creature and her brother, being the Kylan King, was incredibly lucky. Whenever she attempted to kill him, he'd always narrowly escape death under a series of coincidences. It wasn't the Kylan King. Zhang Li shook his head, it was a being beyond my current understanding. Quote. I see. Upon hearing Zhang Li's explanation, White Snow Spirit knew she probably couldn't kill this individual. If even the human emperor couldn't understand them, what could she possibly do? Zhang Li pushed the pure blood pill towards White Snow Spirit. Is it truly for me? Despite knowing the answer, White Snow Spirit was still overjoyed. She wasn't happy before because she thought Zhang Li was mocking her. Now that the misunderstanding was cleared, she was naturally ecstatic at the prospect of evolving into a pure blood white marsh. She currently possessed the divinity of the Kylan and the divine skills of the White Marsh, making her extremely powerful even in the body integration realm. However, these two types of blood didn't have as intimate a relationship as her parents did. Especially with her increasing cultivation level, the struggle between the two types of blood became more intense. If she wasn't strong enough and hadn't practiced body cultivation techniques and stealthily learned Zhang Li, the human emperor's strength, from the Dragon Palace, she would have long been torn apart by the clash of the bloods. The Novelfire, nay T. Since you won't fall for me, I can rest assured and give you the pill. White Snow Spirit felt that it was absolutely baffling how pure heart could fall for someone like him. This isn't a free gift. I have a condition. I need you to use your innate divine ability, an unsparing examination, to help me investigate something. White Snow Spirit naturally agreed. With a leap, White Snow Spirit transformed into a majestic, white Kylan. From her antler-like horns to her dragon-like tail, her entire body was snow white. She surveyed the surroundings, just like a benevolent ruler inspecting his domain. The vassal kings scattered around couldn't help but feel a chill, as if something terrible was about to happen. White Snow Spirit swallowed the pure blood pill while levitating in midair, her eyes closed. Zhang Li watched as White Snow Spirit's Kylan form began to show signs of division, transforming into two different beastly forms, a golden Kylan and a white marsh. The Kylan and White Marsh collided fiercely, neither of them yielding to the other. The two types of divine beast blood held no superiority over each other, their statuses being equally noble, with neither of them naturally being superior. Only this time, there was a change in circumstances. The White Marsh had the combined forces of extreme yin and extreme yang, its power being unimaginable, ready to defeat the Kylan. The Kylan was unwilling to accept defeat and mobilized its innate ability to disrupt this evolution with its superior luck. The golden and white lights were incredibly dazzling, like two suns illuminating the entire White Marsh Emperor dynasty. It's that lass, the White Marsh Emperor. A vassal king realized that this was the White Marsh Emperor evolving into a pure blood White Marsh. We cannot let her continue. If she becomes the White Marsh Emperor, I'll never be able to overturn my fate. We've established ourselves as kings, she would never let us off lightly. Although they didn't possess a remote communication talisman to contact each other, the vassal kings had the same intention. Regardless of where White Snow Spirit got the pure blood pill from, they absolutely couldn't let her become the real White Marsh Emperor. They all left their respective headquarters simultaneously, rushing to the imperial capital. They knew that if White Snow Spirit dared to take the pure blood pill now, she'd definitely have prepared to block them. The Changqi king died in Emperor's dynasty. Now, there were only 7 vassal kings left. Nevertheless, so what? The process of becoming a pure blood White Marsh could not be interrupted. There were 7 vassal kings, all of whom were demon beasts in the late stages of body integration realm. No matter what preparations White Snow Spirit had, they were confident they could disrupt it. The 7 vassal kings, full of hostility, rushed to the Emperor dynasty. They saw a dense white fog surrounding White Snow Spirit. Her body was undergoing a fierce struggle, and it was clear that the White Marsh's bloodline was gaining the upper hand. Just as they were about to make a move, they saw Zhang Li standing below White Snow Spirit, waving at them. At that moment, they were almost scared out of their wits. Damn, it's the human emperor. Let's disperse, let's disperse. What's so special about the pure blood white marsh? There's nothing to see here, let's all go back. Yawn, where am I? Why am I sleepwalking again? Let's go, I'll go home and sleep. Look at you, so drowsy. Don't fly to the wrong place, let me take you home. Chapter 103 to 103, The Innate Divine Ability of Bai. The memories Zhongli left with the White Marsh Emperor's dynasty were painful to endure. For the human cultivators, the White Marsh Emperor's dynasty was an excellent battlefield, a whetstone. Anyone who was ambitious about their own battle strength wanted to experience life and death trials amongst the beasts, to achieve growth. After all, beasts could reproduce more rapidly than humans and grow faster in the early stages, making them stronger than humans of the same level. Zhongli was an exceptional case. After reaching the nascent soul stage, he felt that his cultivation was growing too rapidly, which was detrimental to his subsequent cultivation. To slow his progress, he visited the White Marsh Emperor's dynasty. At that time, the beasts were oblivious to the fact that Zhongli would later become the human emperor. One after another, they tried to kill him with all their might. They had conducted many such actions. Just as the humans used the beasts as a whetstone, the beasts viewed the humans as prey. In their eyes, the young Zhongli was just one of the many prey. Who would have thought that Zhongli killed so many beasts? It was hard to count. Whoever dared to harbor killing intent towards him, he would dare to slay. The impression Zhongli left on the vassal kings was not of a protector of the 9 states, but of a butcher of beasts. Wait, what are you all being so timid for? The Kailan king roared. He was extremely lucky. Whenever he was confronted with a life or death situation, he always managed to survive. Since he couldn't die, what was there to fear? Especially you, Golden-Winged Rock King. Weren't you the one who almost killed the human emperor? Why are you the first one to run? The other vassal kings looked towards the Golden-Winged Rock King. That's right, what were they afraid of? After all, if the human emperor wanted to kill someone first, it would be the Golden-Winged Rock King. The vassal kings also had private meetings, where they competed for achievements. However, none of them could surpass the Golden-Winged Rock King, who had the shortest tenure among them. He ascended to the throne by killing his father 400 years ago, but no one dared to question his battle strength. The Golden-Winged Rock King once mentioned when he was drunk that he nearly killed Zhongli in an intense battle, but unfortunately, Zhongli escaped. Everyone knew that Zhongli was synonymous with invincibility at the same level. The fact that the Golden-Winged Rock King was able to defeat Zhongli spoke volumes about his battle strength. The Golden-Winged Rock King was so angry with the Kailan King that he wanted to kill him. Why bring up this matter? At that time, he was in the late stages of divinity transformation, while Zhongli was in the early stages of the nascent soul stage. They were worlds apart, and Zhongli naturally couldn't defeat him. In addition, he once attempted to kill Zhongli, but of course, he didn't succeed. If the human emperor wanted to bring up old grievances, even if he were a ghost, he wouldn't let the Kailan King off. To prevent these vassal kings from causing trouble, Zhongli casually pressed down with his hand. Instantly, the surrounding spiritual energy was drained, and the entire palace became a land without spirits. Moreover, the vassal kings found that they couldn't mobilize the spiritual energy within their bodies. They could only rely on their physical bodies to move, and most of their divine skills were locked. They understood this was a warning from Zhongli and hastily left. Actually, apart from the stubborn Kailan King, everyone else wanted to leave. Lucky. If you think you're lucky, you face the human emperor by yourself. The rest of us won't accompany you to your death. The Kailan King stepped on auspicious clouds, bathed in golden light, looking as divine and holy as ever. He truly wanted to interrupt the White Snow Spirit's process. Even though the White Snow Spirit couldn't kill him after becoming a pure-blooded White Marsh, she had ways to punish him. If she imprisoned him and didn't allow him to leave his territory, didn't allow him to kill, and only allowed him to eat vegetables, that would be more unbearable than death. Upon seeing the Kailan King's frenzied demeanor, Zhongli sighed, such a good auspicious beast. Just because it can't die, how has it turned out like this? The Kailan King didn't care. After all, he was a blessed auspicious beast. No one could kill him. With a flick of Zhongli's hand, the Kailan King exploded into a blood mist. Not even a piece of flesh was left. The Kailan King, protected by celestial fate, unexpectedly died without a trace. There was no sign of any coincidence that allowed him to escape death. The 6 vassal kings were as silent as cicadas in the cold. No longer daring to stay here, they hurriedly fled. After 3 days and nights, as White Snow Spirit's blood purification was nearing completion, she split her bloodline into 2, separating the Kailan bloodline. The Kylan bloodline was so precious that she couldn't bear to discard it, so she used the bloodline as the basic structure to construct a golden Kylan avatar. She, on the other hand, had the appearance of a white marsh. The moment she became a white marsh, it felt like she knew many things. Places she had never been before, cultivation knowledge she had never learned, cultivation methods she had never heard of, she knew them all. Problems that once puzzled her in cultivation were also easily solved. This was the innate ability of the white marsh race, enabling them to know everything about the world. Of course, this was how the White Marsh clan described its own abilities. In fact, they didn't know everything. If they did, they wouldn't have the divine ability of knowing all secrets, which could only be used once at the body integration realm, and 3 times at the transcendence tribulation stage. Zhongli was sitting in the pavilion, eating the special fruits of the White Marsh Emperor's dynasty. The fox-eared and fox-tailed fox girls were vying to stand next to Zhongli to serve the human emperor. The beast race revered the strong, so naturally, Zhongli became an object of worship for these fox girls. Zhongli politely declined their service. "Thank you for the pill, human emperor." The white snow spirit, now in human form, gratefully bowed to Zhongli. White snow spirit dismissed the palace girls. What would the human emperor like to ask? Calculate where the extraterritorial devils are in the 9 states. White snow spirit's hand trembled. She couldn't believe Zhongli's question. She knew that the human emperor wouldn't jest about such a matter, so she steadied her mind, bit her tongue, and spat out a drop of essence blood, which then transformed into a blood mist. White snow spirit silently repeated Zhongli's question in her heart, but the blood mist remained unchanged. There are no extraterritorial devils in the 9 states. Could the human emperor have been mistaken? Zhongli frowned. Is there a possibility that the heavenly demon has concealed the heavenly machine, leading to your inability to calculate it? Absolutely not. White snow spirit denied firmly. This is the innate ability of our race, a rule endowed by heaven, which disregards everything. Just as the Heshan stone is bound to attack the enemy, the all-knowing divine skill of our White Marsh clan can calculate everything. An extraterritorial devil came to the 9 states and bewitched the old Buddha of the mountain of Meru. This was a certainty, but it was an incident that happened 50 years ago. Now, there are no extraterritorial devils in the 9 states, so there was only one possibility, that celestial-level extraterritorial devil had left the 9 states. Since she didn't get a result, she still had a chance to use all-knowing. Then calculate whether the extraterritorial devil has left and B means to harm the 9 states. White snow spirit let her essence blood disperse into a blood mist again. This time, the blood mist produced an answer, forming a pile of symbols Zhongli had never seen before, a language only the White Marsh clan could understand. White snow spirit just became a pure-blooded White Marsh, so she wasn't familiar with these characters, and needed to identify them one by one. She took out a jade pendant, translated what she saw into the language of the 9 states, and handed it to Zhongli. Zhongli used his divine sense to scan it and found that the first item was surprisingly the demon cultivation method taught to Zhang Yixing. In addition, there was information about telling Zan the existence of the heart-controlled GU, the matter of the respected god hidden, and so on. These conspiracies were either successful or failed. As time went by, some lost their original meaning. Zhongli's brows were tightly furrowed as he read through these items one by one. During the time the extraterritorial devil was lurking in the 9 states, it had orchestrated numerous plots. Some incidents that seemed coincidental were actually manipulated behind the scenes by the extraterritorial devil. Chapter 104-104, Meeting of the Jojo Council. Chapter 104. Chapter 104, Meeting of the Jojo Council. In Zhongli's view, the schemes of the heavenly demons from beyond the realm were quite peculiar. For instance, the heavenly demons had indirectly established the God-hidden cult, with strict secrecy measures in place. They could have widely advertised the respected God-hidden, plunging the 9 provinces into chaos. Apart from the God-hidden cult, the outer realm heavenly demons had also anonymously published books such as the Cultivation Handbook. By pretending it to be very old books and selling them at roadside stands, they misled novice cultivators with incorrect cultivation knowledge. For example, they claimed that the yang energy is at its peak at the 3rd period of the day noon and was ideal for cultivation. This information was erroneous because they didn't clarify that it would only be useful for cultivators in the early stages of foundation establishment. Though Qi cultivators would face no substantial issues at the onset of utilizing this method, and might even absorb spiritual energy faster, this could damage their foundations over time and hinder their future cultivation progress. When Qi cultivators discover this knowledge, which others are not privy to, they might secretly cultivate, astounding others and follow the wrong cultivation methods further and further, ultimately resulting in irreparable damage to their foundations. However, after Zhang Li became the human emperor, he advocated for a reduction in sectarian prejudice, a public universal cultivation method, and the rectification of cultivator misconceptions, thus minimizing the impact of the heavenly demons. Cultivation Handbook. The Outer Realm heavenly demons also spread rumors, claiming that they were actually here to save the 9 provinces and had shown restraint towards the 9 provinces, hoping that the people would realize this and choose not to resist the heavenly demons, submitting willingly to their demise. Surprisingly, some believed these absurd tales, thinking that the sky demons were so powerful and yet the 9 provinces could still withstand for 9,000 years. That must mean that the demons weren't using their full strength. Thus, they voluntarily established the Outer Realm heavenly demon cult, claiming that the heavenly demons possess vast divine skills and that after people were killed by them, their souls would journey to a beautiful world. A world devoid of worries, filled with beautiful women, fine wine, and gastronomical delights. However, the Outer Realm heavenly demon cult was long ago eradicated by the combined forces of the Imperial Palace and other powers. Beyond that, Outer Realm heavenly demons also tried to tamper with the history of the 9 provinces, altering the aesthetical preferences of cultivators and so on. Some of these influences had been eliminated, while some were not regarded seriously and took their effect. Zhang Li finally realized that these were the crafty plots of the Outer Realm heavenly demons. Most of the measures taken by Outer Realm heavenly demons did not involve direct killing, but rather subtly undermined the foundations of the 9 provinces, wearing it down over time. This method was silent yet penetrating and hard to defend against. Without the innate divine ability of the White Snow Spirit, it would have been really hard to discern whether it was a foolish person at work or the workings of the heavenly demons. Now that Zhang Li knew what kind of measures the Outer Realm heavenly demons had implemented, he naturally needed to address it promptly. Konghu, notify all the forces with cultivators in the body integration realm. There will be a 9 provinces council meeting at the Imperial Palace in 10 days. The meeting will have only one agenda, to solve the remaining issues left by the Outer Realm heavenly demons. The power to convene a 9 provinces council is unique to the human emperor, who can call upon all major forces to unconditionally attend the meeting to discuss problems. This is usually only done in the face of significant issues that require a combined effort from all the forces to resolve. Zhang Li hasn't utilized this power for decades. The various schemes laid out by the Outer Realm heavenly demons require the collective efforts of the major forces in the 9 provinces to be resolved. The power of the Imperial Palace alone is insufficient, plus this is the responsibility of the other forces as well. In 10 days, come to the Imperial Palace for the meeting, Zhang Li advised the White Snow Spirit next to him, or you can accompany me back to the Imperial Palace now. White Snow Spirit shook her head. I want to familiarize myself with the Kylan avatar first and sort out the matters with the feudal lords, so as to prevent them from causing another uproar. Now she was already a pure-blooded White Marsh Emperor. Even if the feudal lords didn't accept her identity as the White Marsh Emperor, the fate of the kingdom would. Under the blessing of the kingdom's destiny, a Transcendence Tribulation stage White Marsh Emperor suppressing a few feudal lords would be no big deal. Zhang Li nodded. Before he left, he warned White Snow Spirit not to divulge anything about the God-hidden cult. White Snow Spirit fully understood the severity of the matter and respected Zhang Li's concerns. When Zhang Li returned to the Imperial Palace, he listed out every single scheme of the Outer Realm heavenly demons and distributed them among the major forces. When the 10th day arrived, representatives from the 9 great empires, 6 great sects, 4 Sea Dragon Palace, and other sects or large nations with body integration cultivators in charge, all arrived at the Imperial Palace. Despite Zhang Li being able to kill those in the body integration realm as easily as squashing ants, in reality, those in the body integration realm were incredibly powerful entities in the 9 provinces. Within political courts, body integration realm cultivators were senior officials of the first rank, with great power and authority. The sects that had body integration cultivators could even influence who would be the next emperor. Those in the body integration realm could live for 2,000 years. For a sect, they were their central pillars, an everlasting foundation that lasted for 1,000 years. The relations between the various forces were complex. It was not uncommon for 2 forces to simultaneously have marriages, alliances and blood feuds. In other places, if these forces met, they would fight until blood was drawn. But here in the Imperial Palace, they would obediently sit down and comply with the arrangements by the Imperial Palace, with the most they could do is to, at each other, daring not to take any further action. EAH The novel F. IR.net. All the influential figures, with great power and prestige, sat obediently at the table. The divinity transformation stage protectors of the human emperor served them tea and they would hurriedly hold up their teacups and even courteously thank them for it. If this was happening outside, they wouldn't even show any courtesy if a divinity transformation stage cultivator were to wash their feet, let alone serve them tea. The 9 Provinces Council was held in the main hall of the Imperial Palace, where a round table was placed. The representatives of the various forces sat around it. Zhang Li sat in the position directly facing the entrance. The closer a force was to Zhang Li, the stronger that force was. While the closest to Zhang Li was naturally the Dao sect represented by Bai Hongtu, followed by representatives from the 5 major sects, the 9 major empires, and the 4 Sea Dragon Palace. Zhang Li explicitly stated that a heavenly demon from beyond the realm had once infiltrated the 9 provinces and carried out numerous schemes. These schemes continue to influence the 9 provinces to this day and require the combined efforts of various forces to resolve. However, Zhang Li did not mention the grade of the heavenly demon. The forces discussed in whispers among themselves, as they had never heard of the outer realm heavenly demons plotting intrigues. Usually, the heavenly demons couldn't communicate and only arrived in the 9 provinces to start killing. Zhang Li maintained order and continued his speech. Jade pendants with identical content were distributed to everyone. He explained one by one the tasks to be undertaken by their respective forces. In general, it was left to the nations to carry out the main tasks, while the responsibilities of the sects served as support. For instance, destroying the Cultivation Handbook, written by the heavenly demons, mostly fell under the responsibilities of the nations, whereas the sects needed to inspect if any of their disciples possessed such a book. Although it is universally acknowledged in the cultivation world that the time at the 3rd period of the day, noon, is most ideal for cultivation, it is only useful to cultivators in the initial stage of foundation establishment. Young cultivators who were new to the path of cultivation liked to take shortcuts and believed that as Qi cultivation stage cultivators, using the cultivation methods of the foundation establishment stage would surely put them ahead of others. This was their lucky break. As for these people, Zhang Li could only say that they should save them if they can. If not, at least prevent them from passing on their foolishness to others. In addition, there were remnants of the outer realm heavenly demon cult, etc. These people did not have much impact but were very unpleasant. They needed to be the focus of attention as well. Chapter 105 to 105, The Spiritual Treasure Method. Chapter 105. Chapter 105, The Spiritual Treasure Method. The conference proceeded methodically. Everything was as it was before. Those who came to attend the conference were not new to cultivation. Living without sleep, food or drink was part of their daily routine. They held meetings for 3 consecutive days, discussing various details spiritedly until they finally agreed on a final plan. Among the representatives present, only the Buddha child Wuji was in the nascent soul stage. While he could manage without sleep, he still couldn't manage absolute fasting. Influenced by Zhang Li's past life belief of, since you've come, you might as well have a meal, and in consideration for the Buddha child's eating habits, Zhang Li ordered his subordinates to prepare some food, which catered to both vegetarians and those who avoided certain meats. After the death of the ancient Buddha of Mount Sumeru, the Buddhist community lost its leader. The monks gathered on the summit of Mount Sumeru, holding hundreds of meditation debates. The echoes of Buddhist chanting resounded all day. In the end, Wuji, with his insight into the essence of Buddha, defeated all the high monks and became the new Buddhist leader. The Buddhist leader is chosen not by his cultivation level, but by his Buddhist heart. After 3 days, the Kyushu conference formulated a detailed resolution, which, theoretically speaking, can substantially eliminate the influence left by the heavenly demon. However, the actual outcome will depend on the implementation efficiency of each faction, which will require Zhang Li to assign supervisors. Now that we've agreed on this, does anyone have any objections? You're more than welcome to raise them. Let's all discuss together. Zhang Li said. No objections. Bai Hongtu was the first to respond to Zhang Li. Next came a chorus of voices saying, no objections. Zhang Li rose to his feet, his gaze sweeping over each representative. Since there are no objections, please sign this agreement. Zhang Li took out a sheet of brown parchment and threw it onto the center of the round table. From every angle, one could clearly see the words on the paper, which were the agreement that everyone had reached. At the end of the writing there were 2 lines, one reading, Imperial Palace, the other the date. There was a large blank space at the bottom of the paper for the representatives to sign in their own blood. The paper, called Blood Pact Scroll, was made of grass from areas scarce in spiritual energy and was specially processed for establishing pacts, reaching agreements, and drafting laws. Original drafts of Zhou Dynasty regulations are all written on this paper and stored in the treasury. The Novelfire net. The Blood Pact Scroll is known for its toughness. It does not degrade even after millennia. Moreover, it is extremely sensitive to spiritual energy. Any alterations made by divine skills, or law-altering forces would leave a trace on it. This is to prevent anyone from tampering with the content. After the representatives confirmed that the content on the paper was in line with what had been discussed, they signed the agreement. They bit their fingers, suspended a drop of blood in the air, and wrote their names and the full name of the power they represented with their fingers as a brush. For example, Gigi could not simply write, Zhou Dynasty, but had to write, the Great Zhou Dynasty. Zhongli also signed his name in blood and stamped it on the paper. However, the blood-packed scroll began to shake violently, as if it couldn't withstand the power of a single drop of Zhongli's blood and quickly disintegrated. The conference room became eerily silent. Representatives turned their eyes to Zhongli in astonishment. This had never happened before. This was the blood-packed scroll, known for its toughness, which couldn't even be torn by a body integration realm cultivator's full strength. Yet, it couldn't withstand the power of a single drop of Zhongli's blood. Moreover, several decades ago, when agreements were signed, Zhongli's blood was not this powerful. The representatives felt a chill. Decades had passed, and Zhongli's cultivation had improved. Zhongli coughed to break the silence, not expecting that his blood would be too much for the blood-packed scroll to handle. If that's the case, I might as well just sign normally without using blood as ink. It breaks from tradition, but there are no alternatives. Who among the representatives would dare to defy this? They unanimously stated, ancestral laws can be flawed, we must adapt to the changing times, the era is progressive, we have to adapt, and other external justifications. Of course, there were also blunt statements like, you're in charge, so you make the rules. The signing ceremony was repeated, and the conference was finally concluded successfully. If there is nothing else to discuss, you may leave now. Although Zhongli was just uttering conventional words, he knew for sure that the discussions weren't finished yet. Unlike Dao Sec's ostentatious treasure appraisal fair, the Imperial Palace Kyushu Conference was a genuine forum where various factions could get together to solve problems. Any disputes among factions could be brought out into open and addressed in the conference. Several decades ago, the conference revolved around the establishment of the Kyushu Protective Array. After reaching a conclusion, various factions started appealing for Zhongli to mediate, complaining about the others' wrongdoings. At the same time, the defendants also protested to Zhongli not to be fooled by one-sided stories. They claimed it was self-defense, as the accusers were the ones who initiated the conflict. Endless wrangling from both parties had troubled Zhongli for quite some time. Of course, only powerful factions with immense issues dared to confront each other on such an esteemed platform like this conference. Nevertheless, the reconciliation was expected to take another couple of weeks. As expected, the emperor of the Great Yang dynasty raised a problem. I'm lodging a complaint with the human emperor. The Zhou dynasty has won people over by granting too many rights to spiritual treasures through the new spiritual treasure law, causing many of our spiritual treasures in Yang to defect to Zhou. This has inflicted incalculable losses on Yang. We demand that Zhou apologizes and returns the spiritual treasures. Emperor Yang Luo Zheng thundered. Luo Zheng, be reasonable. Slammed Gigi as he banged the table. Your contracts in Yang blatantly exploit spiritual treasures. They fled to Zhou out of desperation. Can you accuse us for having too reasonable a spiritual treasure? It had been more than half a year since the Zhou dynasty announced the draft of the spiritual treasure law. With Gigi's excessive use of twin pupil, a suitable spiritual treasure law was finally adopted in the Zhou dynasty. The new law not only protected the rights of spiritual treasures but also enabled cultivators to use them more efficiently and securely. In the past, cultivators who pursued good quality spiritual treasures often found their own cultivation lagging behind their ambitions, but now, with the cooperation of spiritual treasures, their fighting capacity has soared exponentially. It was a win-win situation for both spiritual treasures and cultivators. To promote the harmony between cultivators and spiritual treasures, Zhou had also organized several competitions in the name of the state to demonstrate the potential of a spiritual treasure when coordinated with its master. For instance, a Qi cultivation level 9 cultivator wielding an artifact, the lowest level of spiritual treasure, even a lower grade 1, could easily defeat a foundation establishment early stage cultivator without a spiritual treasure and fight on par with a cultivator in the mid stage of foundation establishment. Every cultivator yearned for such a leap in their fighting skills, which could be easily achieved with the help of a spiritual treasure. In Zhou, familial spiritual treasures had emerged. A spiritual treasure and a cultivator could create a pact that the spiritual treasure could select the best of the cultivator's progeny as the next master after the cultivator's death. Besides, there also existed Qi cultivation stage cultivators who had chanced upon magic artifacts in secret realms. After acquiring consciousness, these artifacts decided to stay with the cultivators, complying with the spiritual treasure law, rather than running away. Even cultivators at Foundation Establishment stage or golden core stage didn't dare to mess with them. After the implementation of the spiritual treasure law, the Zhou dynasty rose to immense power, inspiring great envy among other dynasties, who hurriedly followed suit. Chapter 106-106 Contribution of the Yin-Yang. Chapter 106. Chapter 106 Contribution of the Yin-Yang Heaven Seal. As Zhongli had predicted earlier, other countries would not be able to adopt the law of the spiritual treasure verbatim, as each country has its unique circumstances requiring a differentiated approach. Other countries were also aware of the state of their own laws. It wouldn't be accurate to say that they were merely for show, but they held a certain practical value while also serving as an aesthetic feature. Thus, they chose to learn the way of treaties from the Tao sect, using these treaties to define the relationship between the spiritual treasure and its master. Thanks to Zhongli's reminders, the Tao sect was well prepared to teach the doctrine of treaties, offering everything from lecturers to educational materials, and even treaty templates. All were meticulously prepared. The Tao sect was the first to go study from the great Zhou dynasty using the law of the spiritual treasure as a basis to determine the general content of the treaty. Other dynasties then modified the treaty template to form treaties unique to their own kingdom. Besides the countries in the 9 states, there were house forces who also needed to regulate the spiritual treasures with treaties. They needed this even more urgently than the dynasties did. Zhongli had once remarked that cultivators nowadays relied too heavily on spiritual treasures, neglecting their own abilities. This issue was much more severe in the house forces than in the dynasties. Without spiritual treasures, the country still had the army and national fortune for combat, but in the house forces, from the old ancestors to the disciples at the outer gate, who didn't rely on spiritual treasures for battle. Now that most of the spiritual treasures had become unresponsive, their combat power was dramatically reduced. All countries and house forces sent people to learn about the way of treaties while also bringing treaty templates back to their respective forces. They wanted to catch up with the great Zhou dynasty as quickly as possible. SEARH the November EL Fire. NET. However, some forces thought that the conditions given by the great Zhou dynasty to the spiritual treasures were much too generous, like allowing rest every 6th day, providing spirit stones monthly, not allowed to be damaged at will. If a spiritual treasure suffered severe damage due to the owner's fault, it had the right to request the termination of the treaty, etc. This made no sense to them. Just because the spiritual treasures gained intelligence didn't mean they should be treated as humans. There was no need to pamper a spiritual treasure. After all, it was just an object. Many forces didn't agree with the content of the treaty. They modified the treaty content, extensively slashing down the benefits of the spiritual treasures. The great Yang dynasty was particularly extravagant in this regard, even nationalizing the treaties and prohibiting cultivators from striking deals on their own. They required all cultivators using the treaties to hand over a proportion of spirit stones. As a result, not only the spiritual treasures but even their masters wanted to leave the great Yang dynasty. Monarch Yang, if I were to have the great Zhou return the spiritual treasures, what should be done if the spiritual treasures flee again? Naturally, we would have the great Zhou return the spiritual treasures. Monarch Yang asserted confidently, not finding anything inappropriate in his statement. Then I suggest that the great Yang implement isolationist policies. Zhongli glanced at Monarch Yang. This man became the monarch through methods like false accusations and palace intrigues, ranking low among monarch Yangs throughout history in terms of governing the kingdom. Next, who else has a question? Zhongli no longer wished to mediate the conflict between the great Yang and the great Zhou. Once the great Yang dynasty experienced a severe loss in spiritual treasures, monarch Yang would naturally realize where the problem lay. There was no need for him to intervene in such matters. Wait a moment, I have another question. Monarch Yang noticed that Zhongli wasn't intending to heed him, so he turned to Bai Hongtu and said, "Please ask the Tao sect to wipe out the intelligence of all the spiritual treasures in the great Yang dynasty." He didn't want the spiritual treasures to leave the kingdom, nor did he want to grant them rights. So, why not revert to the initial state? As long as the spiritual treasures did not possess intelligence, all problems can be resolved. Other emperors and great powers were not as extreme as monarch Yang, but they also didn't want to emulate the great Zhou, allowing the spiritual treasures such extensive rights. They saw these artifacts just as tools, so why extend such courtesy to these tools? If the Tao sect agreed with monarch Yang's suggestion, they might also decide to extinguish the intelligence of their spiritual treasures. However, most of those present were considerably sane, especially Yu Yin. She knew how terrifying an intelligent spiritual treasure could be. The magic gourd was the perfect example. A magic gourd with intelligence and one without were two entirely different entities. An intelligent magic gourd was unimaginably powerful, it could even showcase a killing spree to an earth immortal. The treaty that Yu Yin issued in the Tianyuan Emperor dynasty was the closest to that of the Great Zhou dynasty. Although numerous cultivators didn't understand why they should treat spiritual treasures so well, under Yu Yin's prestige and pressure, they could only agree even if they were reluctant. They then found out the results were pretty good. Some people in the Tianyuan Emperor dynasty wanted to establish their own treaty and take advantage of the spiritual treasures. They claimed that their treaty was better than the official one. Yu Yin did not prohibit this, but those cultivators wanting to exploit the spiritual treasures soon discovered that spiritual treasures were very sharp. They could discern whether the treaty was in their favor. Treaties required the agreement of both parties. If one party disagreed, the treaty could not be established. Eventually, after a lot of arguments, the content of the treaty was adjusted repeatedly, surprisingly similar to the official standard treaty issued by Yu Yin. Even because of their lack of professionalism, there were loopholes in the treaty, which the spiritual treasures took advantage of. If Monarch Yang is willing, of course. Then, Monarch Yang was overjoyed. He had initially thought that Bai Hongtu would disagree or take the opportunity to ask for something. He didn't expect Bai Hongtu to agree so easily. The Dao sect was generous, so the Great Yang dynasty couldn't be stingy. Monarch Yang decided to thank Bai Hongtu verbally afterwards. But there is one thing I need to clarify in advance. Bai Hongtu raised his hand calmly, only continuing after Zhang Li nodded slightly. Our Heavenly Seal ancestor has researched a way of cultivation that only spiritual treasures can use. We welcome everyone to bring their spiritual treasures to learn at the Dao sect, or to let the spiritual treasures come to study by themselves. Who is this Heavenly Seal ancestor? Is it reliable? Monarch Yang instinctively retorted since he had never heard of a Heavenly Seal ancestor in the Dao sect, but he quickly caught himself and kept quiet. What Heavenly Seal ancestor? Isn't that the Yin-Yang Heaven Seal? When Bai Hongtu declared this, everyone was shocked. Spiritual treasures that can cultivate. Zhang Li was surprised too. He had heard that the Yin-Yang Heaven Seal was secretly researching the method of spiritual treasure cultivation, but he didn't expect that it would be accomplished so quickly. It's not as exaggerated as you think. Bai Hongtu remained calm, and everyone could tell that he was maintaining suspense, but who could stop him? Just as we can't become immortals, the spiritual treasures cannot cultivate to the level of immortal artifacts. Furthermore, the current method of cultivation is still rough and can only barely help the spiritual treasures ascend a small level. To make it easier to understand, we divide magic artifacts into 9 levels from lower grade to upper grade. The cultivation method for spiritual treasures researched by the Heavenly Seal ancestor can upgrade a spiritual treasure from a lower grade to a lower middle grade. Everyone finally breathed a sigh of relief. If they had suddenly stated that a method had been found that would allow the lowest level grade spiritual artifacts to be promoted to immortal artifacts, that would have been genuinely shocking. Even so, the news Bai Hongtu brought was astonishing. One must know that this was just the result of a few months of research. Given a few more years, it's possible that a method that allows spiritual treasures to be elevated to the next major grade could be developed. What was even more important was that the Dao sect was willing to share this method. Other forces questioned themselves. If they had this method, even if the human emperor advocated for openly spreading universally applicable cultivation methods, they would undoubtedly keep it a secret and not leak a word. Chapter 107 to 107, Diverse Questions. Chapter 107. Chapter 107, Diverse Questions. Bai Hongtu directly displayed the cultivation method for spiritual treasures. The Yin-Yang Heaven Seal imitated the normal cultivation method, mapping out the spiritual passages of the spiritual treasures. The spiritual treasures would absorb spiritual energy and circulate it through the heavens to become stronger, a rather ingenious concept. The representatives of each power quickly took notes. This was knowledge that couldn't be bought no matter how many spirit stones you had. That's everything, but I still recommend that you send people to the Dao sect for learning. We can only progress through exchange and learning, he stated. Master Bai is a boundless benefactor. My Solid Earth sect thanks you. The Dream River dynasty appreciates the teaching of the Dao sect. The Dao sect's magnanimity leaves us in awe. The representatives did not hesitate to praise Bai Hongtu and the Dao sect. After all, compliments didn't cost anything. So, are you still interested in erasing the spirituality of the spiritual treasures, Emperor Yang? My previous remark was just a slip of the tongue. I beg your pardon, Master Bai. Emperor Yang, of course, would no longer bring up erasing the spirituality of the spiritual treasures. If the spiritual treasures of the other dynasties had spirit and could practice to become stronger, but his own could not because they had no spirit, given their continuous progress the position of his great Yang dynasty would become perilous. he still had a grasp of situations of this magnitude. Originally, I was thinking of choosing a good day to publicly disclose the cultivation method for spiritual treasures in JoJo. I didn't expect the human Emperor Zhongli to convene this conference, which happens to give me an opportunity to inform you in advance. The Dao sect has chosen a day to publicly disclose it to JoJo, so I would like to request that you all not cling too tightly to the cultivation method for the spiritual treasures that you just got your hands on. Bai Hongtu chuckled, glancing at Emperor Yang with meaningful eyes. Don't even think about treating the cultivation method of spiritual treasures as imperial secrets. Emperor Yang did indeed have such a thought. Even if the method was made public, he would still want those unruly cultivators to submit to him, swear an oath of loyalty to him, their monarch. Only then would he disclose it. In this way, his authority would be greatly enhanced, and he would no longer have to worry about others plotting to usurp his throne. But before he could take any action, Bai Hongtu decisively thwarted his plan. Where is that coming from, Master Bai? Emperor Yang chuckled. However, Bai Hongtu had not actually named anyone, so Emperor Yang ended up implicating himself. The major sects within the borders of the Great Yang all saw Emperor Yang's foolishness. Their minds began to fill with thoughts of rebellion. The imperial palace only prohibited large-scale wars, not rebellions that didn't require a high death toll. Zhongli saw Bai Hongtu's plans clearly. Solely relying on the wisdom of the Yin-Yang Heaven Seal, an immortal artifact, was insufficient to thoroughly research the entire cultivation method in a short time. Only by brainstorming, researching and experimenting with all the spiritual treasures together could the research time be shortened. Moreover, each spiritual treasure was unique in shape and characteristics. The cultivation method of the Yin-Yang Heaven Seal might not be suitable for all spiritual treasures. Allowing all of them to practice together would likely result in a universally applicable cultivation method. The Dao sect also wasn't afraid that others might come up with a more suitable cultivation method for spiritual treasures. Even if they did, they would not be able to shake the position of the Yin-Yang Heaven Seal being the elder brother of the JoJo spiritual treasures and the head bearer of the immortal artifacts. Now, does anyone have other questions? Zhongli continued to ask. The corpse driving sect master stood up and saluted. My corpse driving sect recently ran out of bodies. If anyone is willing to provide high-ranked cultivator bodies, the corpse driving sect is willing to buy at a high price. Quote. No advertising during the meeting. One more time, and the corpse driving EAH the November Hellfire, NET. Sect will be permanently disqualified from attending. The master of the corpse driving sect promptly sat down properly. We of Great Wei invite the Union sect to set up a branch in our land, suggested Emperor Wei. The Union sect possessed a legitimate dual cultivation technique, beneficial for both genders. The Great Yang dynasty also welcomes the Union sect to establish a branch in Great Yang. Quote. The Great Sui dynasty also welcomes. The Union sect is currently researching a same-sex dual cultivation technique. Whichever force is willing to support, we will establish a branch there. Seeing people still wanting to compete, the powerless Zhongli knocked on the table. Discuss this topic after the meeting. Next question. The beast-taming sect's master said, I have a little daughter, who is adorable and unmarried, if Emperor Zhong is willing. Zhongli was expressionless. Next question. The representative from the Red Dust Pure Land was Clean Desire Taoist. The Clean Desire Taoist stored the beast-taming sect's master in her memories for her disciples. I accuse the Dream River dynasty of organ trafficking. Emperor Wei spoke again. Lao Sao, you are falsely accusing me. Emperor Dream River was furious. What's going on? Zhongli frowned. Emperor Wei replied faithfully. I asked Emperor Dream River if he could betroth his concubine to me. I was willing to exchange land for her, and he asked me if I wanted face. Zhongli, expressionless, threw Emperor Wei out. Emperor Wei disrupts the order of the conference. This is a punishment. Next question. My Solid Earth sect has a question, announced the Solid Earth sect Supreme Elder. A cultivator at the body integration realm in my Solid Earth sect wants to explore the universe to test his cultivation techniques, but the JoJo Guardian formation can only allow travel out and not in. Can Master Bai add an automatic detection feature for detecting extraterritorial heavenly demons to the formation? The Nine Sun Flying Sky sect also has the same issue. The Dream River dynasty has the same issue. The Returning Void sect also has the same issue. Bai Hongtu frowned. Indeed, he had overlooked this. The JoJo world consisted of two parts, the JoJo continent and the stars above the continent, whereas the JoJo Guardian formation could only protect the JoJo continent. All the stars in the JoJo world were lifeless, devoid of any spiritual energy, making them unfit for cultivating or sustaining cultivators. But cultivators at the body integration realm could roam the universe. There were some cultivation techniques which, for reasons of power or secrecy, were often practiced in the universe. After all, the planets there had no life. If they were to obliterate any, it wouldn't matter. Zhang Li had even seen body incorporating sect cultivators doing sports in the universe, kicking planets as if they were balls, and he knew cultivators who liked to bathe in black holes. Also, some cultivators needed astral power for their cultivation. For instance, the Dream River dynasty would usually send their cultivators into the universe to gather starlight from close proximity to increase the dynasty's fortune. Zhang Li looked at Bai Hongtu, who understood that Zhang Li was agreeing to modify the formation. "We can, it's not too difficult, but it will take some time," Bai Hongtu responded. Extraterritorial heavenly demons and cultivators are fundamentally different. There are no similarities in their bodies or souls. Even if a heavenly demon changes form in an attempt to pass through the guardian formation, the formation can detect the difference in their soul, preventing them from getting through. A cultivator's root is their soul. Cultivators can change their shape but not their souls. Bai Hongtu also gave Zhang Li a glance. Even a heavenly immortal level heavenly demon couldn't do it either. Also, we only allow cultivators below the transcendence tribulation stage to pass through the formation, Zhang Li added, wanting an extra layer of security. Earth immortal level heavenly demons had chaotic thoughts, and it was impossible for them to have the notion of infiltrating JoJo for mischief. Zhang Li immediately contacted the everlasting immortal. After considering for a while, the everlasting immortal felt there was no problem and agreed to alter the formation. Any other questions? Several days passed, all the issues got resolved and the JoJo conference came to a close. Chapter 108 to 108, The World Where the Brahma Tower is Located. Chapter 108. Chapter 108, The World Where the Brahma Tower is Located. Most of the issues at the meeting were trivial, making Zhang Li feel extremely exhausted. He knew what the problem was. There were no heavenly demons troubling them, and he himself was overseeing 9 provinces. These guys were simply too idle in their comfortable environment. Zhang Li was considering finding something for these guys to do, but he didn't immediately have an idea of what that might be. He noticed that everyone was happy because they could venture into the universe again. The area of the 9 provinces mainland was relatively large in comparison to the planets in the universe. If compared to the size of the planets from Zhang Li's past life, it was about as large as 10 Jupiter-sized planets. However, even with such a vast land, cultivators in the body integration realm found it hard to flex their muscles on the 9 provinces, preferring to fight in the sky or fly into the cosmos to brawl. Moreover, the 9 provinces mainland had restrictions and limitations imposed by laws. Living on the 9 provinces, one didn't notice it. But when a cultivator reached the divinity transformation stage, enabling short stays in the universe, or in case of long-term stays, the body integration realm, such high-level cultivators would find themselves surprisingly strong upon arriving in the universe. They typically moved mountains and seas on the 9 provinces mainland, even creating clouds and precipitation. However, in the cosmos, without the law restrictions of the 9 provinces mainland, they could change the celestial body's trajectories or even casually obliterate planets. When Zhang Li had just entered the Mahayana realm, he too had fun flattening planets like chess pieces and engaged Bai Hongtu in hundreds of Go games. However, the Imperial Palace suggested that cultivators in the body integration realm should refrain from altering orbits or blowing up stars, otherwise they'd find fewer stars each night. With the threat posed by Heavenly Demon of the Heavenly Immortal level eliminated, Zhang Li could search for the Fan Heavenly Tower. The Fan Heavenly Tower was in charge of the spatial laws, and it had a significant impact on the 9 provinces. He had initially planned to seek the Fan Heavenly Tower after finding Yin-Yang Heaven Seal, but after returning to 9 provinces from the world of the ancestral immortal's corpse, he encountered so many issues that he had to postpone the search for the Fan Heavenly Tower. Zhang Li purchased access to the Fan Heavenly Tower from a store once again, but as per usual, it fled using the power of space before being summoned to the 9 provinces. He had to search for it personally. When these rebellious period immortal artifacts ripped space apart to go to other worlds, the system saved their coordinates. It wasn't difficult to know which world they were in. Zhang Li asked Yin-Yang Heaven Seal if it could find the location of the Fan Heavenly Tower. Yin-Yang Heaven Seal politely explained that the tower had many spatial barriers. It felt like he and the tower were separated by multiple worlds, reducing their karmic connection. It could only confirm that the tower was within that world, but couldn't pinpoint its exact location. Seeing Yin-Yang Heaven Seal reduced to an ineffectual state again, Zhang Li had to continue its study of the cultivation method for spiritual treasures. Zhang Li then asked Master Wu Ji what the personality of the Fan Heavenly Tower might be once it acquired intelligence. After thinking for a moment, Master Wu Ji stated that the tower would probably like preaching in crowded places. Zhang Li notified a few close friends of his planned departure from the 9 provinces to travel to another world. Do you wish to teleport to an unknown world? Teleport, responded Zhang Li. Zhang Li could rip space himself and fly through the void, but the system teleportation was quicker. Besides, he had already scrambled the origin code, so he could use it at will. In the run-down and ruined city, skyscrapers leaned, windows and doors broken, the bright sunlight failing to shine upon this gray, desolate city. Despite being told by their parents and watching documentaries, children born in this generation found it difficult to imagine the past prosperity of cities, or a world without threat to life. In this city, houses had lost their primary function of providing safety. Instead, they had become death traps and cesspools. God knows how many zombies lurked inside, and how many had lost their lives within them. A zombie wandered aimlessly through the city, instinctively hunting for prey. Sis, that lone first-level zombie has entered our trap. One of them, perched atop a small building, spotted a zombie and sounded somewhat excited. The things a first-level zombie carried could ensure the siblings live without worry for a month. Of course, if it were converted to weapons or equipment, it would get consumed much faster. He used a zombie detector to determine the level. It was a first-level zombie. Bro, stay calm. We need to make sure there aren't any other zombies or people around it. The sister, situated on the 8th floor of another building, was more cautious. She used several mirrors to observe the zombie below her, adjusting the mirror angles multiple times to confirm the zombie's level and whether there were other zombies around, or veterans waiting to scavenge. In this post-apocalyptic world, their enemies weren't just zombies. Sis, are you done? The prey is about to leave the trap. The younger brother sounded anxious, fidgeting with his earpiece. No ambush, attack, the sister decisively ordered. The siblings leapt down from 2 high buildings on either side. Dressed in black reinforced suits and carrying sharp blades, they jumped in silence, aiming for the zombie's limbs and neck. The weak spot of a zombie was its head, where the precious brain core also resided. The siblings couldn't directly target the head as it risked wasting today's ambush. By the time the zombie noticed their movements, it was already too late. The zombie barely managed to dodge, but the sister sliced off one of its arms. Taking advantage of the situation, the brother swung his dagger, creating a beautiful arc in the air. Trying to cut off the zombie's head, the zombie, although devoid of reason, understood its weak spot. It let the brother hit its body rather than let him cut its neck. The brother became impatient. He knew how valuable today's opportunity was. A waste would mean they would have to ambush, starved, for several more days. The zombie's skin was dry and wrinkled, like a mummy stored in a tomb. Annoyed, it screamed at the brother, revealing its shriveled muscles. The zombie lunged at the brother and, with a mighty claw, tore his reinforced suit. The brother screamed in pain before quickly retreating, looking terrified. He had been scratched by a zombie. But after he screamed, he stopped talking and endured the pain and fear silently, not wanting to distract his sister. The sister was calmer than the brother. She swiftly moved toward the zombie, took advantage of the gap left by the brother's failed attack, and continued to attack the zombie. The brother could still be saved from a recent infection. For now, the most important thing was to kill the zombie. If not, both siblings would end up as zombie food today. The sister no longer coveted the zombie's brain core and began to attack its head. However, the zombie moved more flexibly than the sister, even avoided her attacks. It rolled, picked up its severed arm, and swung it as a weapon at the sister. Even a severed zombie arm was highly infectious. The arm's nails were sharper than a knife. The sister's low-quality suit wouldn't survive several scratches. The sister was forced into a crisis. SEARH the November EL fire. NET. She was horrified to see this zombie displaying intelligence, a trait usually found in second-level zombies, using tools as an advantage. This zombie is about to evolve. Their zombie detector is too cheap, it can't determine the exact stage of this level 1 zombie. My sister takes out a pistol, one hand holding a knife and the other a gun, slashing and shooting, trying to smash the zombie's head. After a dozen rounds of battling between the zombie and my sister, she swings her knife at the zombie, but it blocks with its arm. My sister uses her body weight and arm strength to suppress the zombie, forcing it to lean backward beyond the human limit. Its spine creaks, but the zombie feels no pain. She seizes the opportunity, fires a shot from her left hand, aiming at the zombie's eye. She wants to shatter the back of its head along with the eyeball. The zombie suddenly tilts its head back, revealing a strange smile, and its orderly rows of teeth bite onto the bullet. Sis, be careful, the zombie detector shows that it is now a level 2 zombie. My sister's pupils shrink, she feels the zombie's strength suddenly increase and is flung back. My sister uses the momentum to create a distance between her and the zombie and moves toward her brother, intending to flee from there with him. She wouldn't be able to beat a level 2 zombie no matter what, leaving the place may offer her a slight chance of survival. Sis, go by yourself, don't drag me along. My brother realizes his sister's intent. However, even she alone may not be able to escape from the pursuit of the level 2 zombie. How could she possibly escape successfully if she took him, the burden, along with her? My brother's eyes turn white, his body shivers unnaturally, he's beginning to turn into a zombie. There is a power hierarchy among zombies, he can feel his body producing fear towards this level 2 zombie. I'll hold it off, you go quickly. Overcoming his body's instinctive fear, my brother struggles to his feet, preparing to fight against the zombie. Sister knows this is the best approach, yet their parents had sold them to others as food when they were 8 years old. They had barely escaped from being butchered, and the siblings had relied on each other for survival for 10 years in this hopeless world overrun by zombies. If her brother dies now, she would lose her will to live too. She might as well die. The zombie is not concerned about the siblings' mindset. It runs quickly, like lightning, in the ruins, charging towards the siblings. Despair is written on both siblings' faces. My sister closes her eyes, waiting for the arrival of death, yet she feels no pain even after waiting for a while. She hesitates to open her eyes, seeing a stranger in ancient clothing saying weird words. What the hell is that? However, she couldn't understand what the stranger was saying. My brother just witnessed the entire situation. The stranger suddenly appeared above the zombie's head. He seemed surprised when he saw the zombie, then instinctively stomped on it, trampling it to death. My brother recalls when he used to see cockroaches as a child. He was startled by the fast-moving cockroach and instinctively stomped the insect to death too. The stranger was naturally Zhongli. Zhongli quickly learned the language of this world. Does this young man seem unwell? My sister reacts to realize that her brother is still in danger. She took a potion from her backpack and injected it into his arm. His rapid breathing gradually stabilized, his eyes returned to their dark color, and his body was no longer shaking. Zhongli used his divine sense and found that this is a planet undergoing a zombie crisis. He frowned slightly, realizing the perilous position of mankind in this world. I am in a new world. Zhongli contacted Bai Hongtu. Bai Hongtu spoke at a much faster pace than usual. Let me see what kind of world this is. Zhongli noticed Bai Hongtu's unusual speech rate and said, the flow of time in this world is different from that of Jojo. That's normal. Bai Hongtu had already expected this. It is said that the flow of time in different worlds was originally different. It was only after the immortal realm used the Ascension ladder to connect the 10,000 realms that the flow of time in all the worlds was equalized. The world you went to before, where the flow of time was the same as Jojo, was just a coincidence. The two calculated the time separately. After comparing, they found that the new world and Jojo have significant difference in time flow. Where Jojo had passed 9,000 years, this world had merely spent 1,000 years. Why is it so chaotic there? Did you collapse their buildings when you arrived? Seeing Zhongli's background on this side, where houses were abandoned, weeds were overgrown, and the place was desolate, Bai Hongtu asked. Making assumptions right away. Zhongli despised Bai Hongtu's behavior. He caught a fang-bearing, claw-waving zombie not far away and showed it to Bai Hongtu. My brother's eyes widen with terror upon seeing it, as his zombie detector reveals that this is a level 3 zombie. He had heard that the strongest zombie in the abandoned city is a level 3. Locals call this thing a zombie. Whoever it bites, becomes a new zombie. Hearing such a familiar description, a scene flashes in Bai Hongtu's mind and he shudders. Isn't that the same as when we were human emperor candidates and had come across the heavenly demon's disintegration scene? Back then, the entire city was like this. You made the decision to kill all of them without hesitation, and this made you famous as Zhong the Butcher. Bai Hongtu recalls a scene he doesn't want to touch again. Driven to desperation, the heavenly demons unleashed heavenly demon disintegration in the Tianyuan Emperor dynasty. Everyone in the city lost their senses, acted like rabid dogs, bit everyone who came their way, and the bitten would become the new source of contamination, infecting others. Zhong Li, carrying a basket of swords and knives, rushed into the city, killed the infected, and broke all weapons. Then he killed all the infected. Zhong Li had watched zombie-based movies in his previous life. Even though the military and government forces in the movies were dubious, the danger of zombies was real. Others human emperor candidates didn't realize how terrifying zombies were, but Zhong Li knew. For this reason, when the heavenly demons disintegrated and infected the people of a city, he was the first to rush in and kill people. It's quite similar. Zhang Li nodded, but that doesn't mean all zombies are made by the heavenly demons. Zhang Li killed this terribly frightening zombie and took out its brain core. There wasn't such a thing in the brains of those infected at that time. This thing is like a spirit stone, which people can absorb. Zhang Li casually threw the level 3 brain core to the siblings. The sudden happiness made the siblings stunned. I think the corpse-driving sect would be quite suitable for this place, Bai Hongtu remarked. Zhang Li agreed with Bai Hongtu's opinion. If they knew about such a world, they might want to relocate their whole sect. Chapter 109 to 109. What level enhancer are you, boss? Chapter 109. Chapter 109. What level enhancer are you, boss? Sir, my name is Yi Wu, and this is my younger brother, Yi Du. We are grateful for your help. Once the projection of the communicator disappeared, Yi Wu cautiously spoke to Zhang Li. Yi Wu intended to express her gratitude towards Zhang Li, but considering that Sni was just a mere level 1 enhancer, Sni couldn't quite NNA a way to pay him back, without even having an acceptable body to offer. Even though she had a pretty face, her body, battered from 10 years of hardship in this harsh world, was marred with numerous scars. Stripped of her enhancement suit and underwear, all she could expose was a body covered in shocking scars and distinctively defined abs. Serch the no circumflexi fire. At. She had heard that the influential figures in the 5 districts preferred soft, delicate girls, and didn't see any value in a body like hers. My name is Zhang Li, just 500 years older than you. You can call me Brother Zhang. Zhang Li said with a smile, entirely devoid of the arrogant airs seen in those influential figures of the 5 districts. Where are the most people in your world, and what's the deal with the zombies? Zhang Li wanted to know why this world had degraded so much and if destructive heavenly demons were responsible for it. Zhang Li didn't dare to project his divine sense to its fullest. The people in this world were not accustomed to divine sense. They wouldn't feel his scan, but the Fantian Tower would. This sentient immortal artifact would surely detect his divine sense, potentially complicating matters if it tore open space and retreated. Furthermore, Zhang Li wasn't all too familiar with the Fantian Tower. Whether it could evade his divine sense remained uncertain. He presumed it could. After all, the Yin-Yang Heaven Seal had suggested that the Fantian Tower coated itself with several layers of space like a Matryoshka doll. It was not certain whether his divine sense could cross through these spatial layers to locate it. Zhang Li knew that this matter couldn't be rushed. The past and present sword and the Fantian Tower, both of which were in control of the Tao of time and space, were not his specializations. Finding them would take considerable time. As Buddha Wuji once said, the Fantian Tower might like to expound the Tao in crowded places. Therefore, he planned to visit the most populated area. Regardless of Zhang Li's strange wording of this world, as if he was from another world, the siblings knew that they had no position to propose questions to him. They could only answer truthfully. We have 5 districts where approximately 80% of the entire world's population gathers. Yi Wu pointed at a direction. The closest from here is District 3. We are from there. Zhang Li nodded, leading the way. With each step he took, the rubble on the ground scattered in advance, allowing him to step onto flat ground, which left the 2 siblings wide-eyed in astonishment. As for how the zombies came to be, we don't remember the precise timeline, but it was probably about 10 years ago. A zombie virus emerged suddenly, infecting both humans and animals alike. The ocean was the most heavily infected. The spread of the virus in the sea was astonishingly fast. Within a few days, the entire ocean had become a paradise for zombies. At first, we weren't aware that the marine life had turned into zombies. People continued to catch seafood and distribute it all over the world. Those who ate the seafood turned into zombies. Despite the responses from countries dispatching their armies, the zombies evolved too rapidly. High-ranking zombies emerged and infected the armies in turn. Quote, moreover, once the marine life turned into zombies, they mutated, sprouting wings, and started to fly out from the sea. Yi Wu shivered, recalling the day the shadows cloaked everything. Our city was next to the sea. Thus, upon landing, the sea creatures directly attacked our city. Blue whale swarms flapped their meaty wings, emitting horrifying shrieks comparable to hellish demons, their mouths opening to an oblique angle. Countless fish flew out from their mouths, descending from the sky in a rain of living destruction on us. Their frantic bites turned any bitten people into zombies. Humanity couldn't stand their ground against the zombies. The areas for human activities reduced and supplies fell short. With the consistent emergence of zombies and an uncertain future, every individual turned selfish, striving only for their own survival, indifferent to others. Deception, betrayal, robbery, such incidents were happening all the time. People occupied supermarkets, hospitals, police stations, and so on, forming small groups for resource collection and self-armament. Eventually, as we learned more about zombies, we discovered that the weakness of zombies was in their heads, precisely, their brain cores. Yi Wu took out the level 3 zombie brain core that Zhongli had shared. The brain of a zombie is replaced by something like this. Once absorbed, our bodies undergo significant changes. Strength, speed, reflexes, and so forth increase geometrically. We call those like us, enhancers. We classify zombies into 5 levels, and similarly, enhancers are also classified into 5 levels. What level of enhancers are you to, and what level of zombie does this brain core belong to? Zhongli asked. Feeling a little proud, Yi Du lifted his chest slightly. We are both level 1. Enhancers. Quote, in the human population, only a minority could become enhancers. It depended on one's talent, and among the level 1 enhancers, they were quite strong. However, Yi Du abruptly recalled that these weren't matters worth boasting about in front of such a big shot, and shrugged his shoulders. This brain core belongs to a level 3 zombie. I heard there's only one level 3 zombie in this city, which is probably the one you killed. Zhongli attempted to make comparisons. It seemed that level 1 was equivalent to Qi cultivation stage, level 3 corresponded to the golden core stage, and the zombie he crushed effortlessly was somewhere around the foundation establishment stage. That might correspond to level 2 of this world. However, the people and zombies of this world only shared physical functionalities akin to the cultivation system. They couldn't apply Taoist divine powers. A zombie trying to ambush them nearby was quickly seized by Zhongli. Before the zombie could even react, its brain core was extracted, resulting in immediate death. The spiritual power density of a level 2 zombie brain core couldn't match a level 3's. Zhongli didn't find it particularly useful, so he casually tossed it to the siblings. Continue. Quote, Yi Wu resumed her account. Later on, the governments and financial groups of various countries established 5 districts, labeled numerically as District 1, District 2, District 3, District 4, and District 5. Survivors could choose to live there. Have you ever seen a level 5 zombie or a level 5 enhancer? Zhongli suddenly asked. He wanted to know whether level 5 corresponded to the divinity transformation stage. Yi Du gave a bitter smile. Don't joke around, sir. If I had encountered a level 5 zombie, would I still be alive? I only got a brief look at a level 4 zombie from a distance before I ran for my life. As for level 5 enhancers, there is one in District 3. But, that kind of powerful figure is elusive. Insignificant people like us wouldn't have the chance to meet one. At most, we have seen them on big screens. What level of enhancer are you, sir? Yi Du couldn't hold back his curiosity any longer. His heart pounded in his chest. Was it level 4 or level 5? Zhongli laughed. I'm at the Mahayana stage. I might be a bit stronger compared to your so-called level 5 zombies and level 5 enhancers. Chapter 110 to 110. The contribution points that drive people to death. Chapter 110. Chapter 110. The contribution points that drive people to death. Mahayana realm. Never heard of it. Yi Du scratched his head. Normally, one isn't supposed to be so relaxed in an abandoned city overrun with zombies. Who knows, a zombie might already be targeting a person who's let down their guard. People crave to kill zombies to gain their brain cores, while the zombies also want to kill the enhanced and consume their flesh. However, when he's with Zhongli, Yi Du always seems to unconsciously let himself relax. After having conversed with Zhongli for so long, there's no way that Yi Wu couldn't tell that this powerhouse was oblivious to zombies. Coupled with the fact that he speaks unusually and dresses as the ancients used to, Yi Wu posits a daring and ridiculous guess. Are you from another world? She stuttered, immediately realizing that her question may have pried into the big shot's private affairs and had been presumptuous. Yes, Zhongli admitted without concealing, I'm here to find a fast little thing. Do you guys become stronger by absorbing brain cores? Zhongli asked again. I see that you're about to break through. Yi Wu understood Zhongli's insinuation. Even before he could finish his sentence, she proactively produced a third-tier zombie's brain core. Absorption of the brain core should ideally occur in a safe place, and there's nowhere in the world safer than by Zhongli's side. Yi Wu placed the brain core on her forehead, closing her eyes to focus, and then sensing the power within the brain core. Strands of power drifted from the brain core, slowly nourishing Yi Wu's body. She felt an unprecedented surge of power welling up inside her. Her blood flow quickened, cells differentiated, and metabolism increased. SEARH the novel FIR. NET. Zhongli observed this process clearly. The spiritual power contained in the brain core equates to a golden core stage cultivator. However, during Yi Wu's absorption process, most of it dispersed into the air, with only a small portion entering Yi Wu's body. This resulted in Yiwu being only able to advance from the late first tier to the mid-second tier through absorption. Is this how everyone absorbs cores? Zhongli asked Yidu, isn't there a more efficient method of absorption? Yidu took it for granted and said, this is already the fastest absorption method after several improvements. Seeing that Yiwu was about to absorb a second-tier core, Zhongli stopped her. Your body is now like a balloon about to burst. If you absorb even a tiny bit more power, you'll die. Whether it's a second-tier brain core or even a first-tier one, what you should be doing now isn't absorbing power but getting familiar with your body. Yiwu had never absorbed so much power before. She and her brother had always relied on taking synthesized potions to strengthen themselves. They hadn't even absorbed a second-tier brain core, let alone a third-tier one. She had never heard of the idea of overabsorption to the point of bursting. However, she trusted Zhongli's words. He had no reason to lie. Haven't you ever practiced on your own? Zhongli asked upon hearing from Yiwu that they all strengthened themselves by mimicking core potions or by directly absorbing brain cores. Practice, as in absorbing the power in the air. That's absolutely impossible. Yiwu was startled and quickly explained. Everyone knows that there's power in the air, but no one dares to absorb that. The power in the air is mixed with zombie viruses. If you absorb too much, you'll become a zombie. Those who are still alive have differing levels of antibodies against the zombie virus, and normal breathing won't turn them into zombies, but if they absorb the power in the air, they're basically looking for death. Can't you separate the zombie virus from the power in the air? Zhongli also noticed that the spiritual power here was incredibly filthy, but that was not an issue for him. He stretched out his hand, and all the surrounding spiritual energy gathered in his palm, forming a liquid. The spiritual liquid, which should have been blue, turned black. With a single thought, the black liquid was separated from the spiritual liquid, and the spiritual liquid returned to its original vibrant blue color. Like this, Yidu's eyes widened in disbelief as he watched this unfold. Zhongli hinted for Yidu to absorb the spiritual liquid. Yidu couldn't believe that such luck would befall him as he absorbed the spiritual liquid and became a pinnacle first-tier enhancer. On their way to Zone 3, Zhongli and the siblings covered a lot of topics, which were mostly about cultivation methods. It's a cultivation system that is greatly different from that of Zhuzhou, Zhongli concluded. Zhuzhou cultivators incline toward conforming to nature, comprehending the heavenly Tao, achieving unity of heaven and man, and then absorbing spiritual energy, slowly improving their bodies. However, people of the zombie-infested world use brutal and direct methods of cultivation, which merely involve forcibly absorbing spiritual power. This results in their inability to learn divine skills and spells. Second-tier enhancers can't achieve the inward visualization of the foundation establishment stage, and third-tier enhancers can't achieve the unity of chi and blood as golden core stage practitioners can, with full control. Moreover, this way of cultivating strikes at the root and reduces their lifespan, making it hard for them to live past 60. Zhongli derived the conclusion about their lifespans. Their world had only practiced cultivation for 10 years, and no one had died a natural death. Zhongli also understood that it's hard enough for the inhabitants to survive, much less care about any damage to their roots when any given day could be their last, eaten by zombies. We're here. Yiwu led Zhongli to the outskirts of Zone 3. Outside the city, numerous pallid and gaunt figures sat in tents, mainly elderly folks, their eyes reflecting desolation and dread. What are these? Zhongli frowned, looking at these people. Zone 3 was relatively safe with seldom any zombies. But according to Yiwu, there were occasional waves of zombies besieging the city. How could these people living outside the walls survive? Yiwu gave a helpless sigh, explaining, even if they don't eat or drink and just stay in the city, they still have to pay contribution points. If they can't pay, they'll be driven out of the city. The lucky ones can hold on for a bit, but those who have the misfortune of encountering a wave of zombies. Damn the contribution points. Yidu grumbled bitterly. Contribution points are the common currency of all 5 zones. Those damn tycoons are mad for it and force us to pay up. Otherwise we wouldn't risk our lives outside on a regular basis. Little brother. Yiwu hurriedly restrained Yidu. Bashing the tycoons just outside the walls of Zone 3 was like signing a death wish. Why don't these people have any contribution points, and what can they do to earn them? Kill zombies and sell brain cores, work for corporations, engage in scientific research and sell valuable scavenge GMGs from abandoned cities, and even do odd jobs. All of these can earn contribution points. Most of those who get thrown out are the elderly or those handicapped from exploring outside. They can only toil in the city, working up to 18 hours in a day, earning a pittance of contribution points. At most, it's just enough to buy food and afford life in the city. In times of unforeseen circumstances where they miss a few days' work, they immediately run into deficits and get driven out. Those damn corporations, they set the price of food sky high. No other zone has this problem. I heard that the price of food in Zone 1 is only 1/20th of the price here. Yidu couldn't help but curse, those bastards are just sucking us dry. So many people don't die from zombies but from their relentless exploitation. Chapter 111 to 111, Tycoon. Chapter 111. Chapter 111, Tycoon. Before entering the city, Zhongli left a rune with every person who was driven out of the city. When their lives were in danger, it could transport them to a safe place. To enter the city, one needed to pay with contribution points and verify their identity. Yi Wu was about to tell this to Zhongli when she saw him casually step into the city while the gatekeeper seemed to ignore his presence. Besides Yi's siblings, no one noticed Zhongli in his white robe. The condition within the city wasn't much better. Despite the various expressions on people's faces, Zhongli could see that beneath them all was a sense of numbness. The only difference between these people and the elderly, weak, sick, and disabled waiting for death outside the city was that these people were inside the city. Doesn't your 5th rank enhancer take care of these tycoons? Take care, he hardly cares. Master Longtu only cares about fighting. As long as there are powerful opponents, he doesn't care what the tycoons do, nor does he care about our suffering. In Longtu's own words, why should a strong person care about a weak one? The tycoons cater to his preferences and try their best to connect with the 5th rank enhancers from other regions, building bridges for Master Longtu to fight against them. If Master Longtu is pleased, the 3rd region is ruled by the tycoons. Yidu continued, however, the 5th rank enhancers of the 2nd, 4th, and 5th regions will honor their commitment to engage with Master Longtu, but the Shadow King of the 1st region doesn't pay attention to the tycoons. Speaking of the Shadow Emperor, both Yidu and Yi Wu's eyes were full of admiration and hope. Zhongli asked casually, is this Shadow King very powerful? Of course, exclaimed Yi Wu excitedly. Shadow King is universally acknowledged as the strongest 5th rank enhancer. People say that our path to victory will undoubtedly be led by the Shadow King. The Shadow King has effectively managed the 1st region. There are large tracts of arable land, more than a dozen pastures, mines, military factories, and even scientific research labs to restore the technology of the pre-apocalyptic era. The mortality rate there is the lowest. Then why don't you go there? Yi Wu smiled bitterly, boss, we are more than 1,000 kilometers away from the 1st region and there are countless zombie nests along the way. We, the 1st and 2nd rank enhancers, wouldn't make it halfway before we were all eaten by zombies. The Shadow King once spoke to Master Longtu and the tycoons, saying that humanity can only defeat zombies by uniting. If the 3rd region is willing to move to the 1st region, the 1st region will send some strong individuals to escort us. The Shadow King himself would also join the escort team to minimize casualties. The Shadow King also said, if the 3rd region is willing, he can satisfy Master Longtu's desire for battle. This caused a big stir. People thought Master Longtu would agree. Although the journey to the 1st region was risky, everyone was willing to take the gamble. Compared to living day by day in the chaotic 3rd region, everyone wanted to go to the hopeful 1st region. But Master Longtu did not wish to be at someone's mercy, and the tycoons rejected the Shadow King's offer. The Shadow King could only sigh and leave. With the 3rd region not cooperating, the few strong individuals in the 1st region could not protect all the people from the 3rd region. There was a high probability of total annihilation. Yidu and Yi Wu looked despondent when they mentioned this. Even the lowest of the low like them knew that for humans to win, the 5 major regions needed to merge into one, but those at the top disagreed. A distance of more than 1,000 kilometers was not that far. Zhongli seemed thoughtful, he had a small idea. Zhongli did not take Yi's siblings' word for it. He wandered around the city. 16. Virgin, skilled in machinery repair and programming, can tolerate multiple kinky games. 19. Virgin, adept at mathematical theories, possesses strong mental calculation abilities, is fluent in multiple languages. 23. Married, proficient in law and ancient poetry, good oral skills. 28. Former actress, can perform various roles. 30. Strong, eats little, works a lot. The slaves, grimy and tired, had a sign in front of them that advertised their age, specialties, etc. They wore iron collars around their necks. With a push of a button, the collars could inject a fatal dose of poison. After a few minutes of agonizing pain, they would soon die. In the slave market, the tycoons were frequent customers. In the private gladiatorial arena, enhancers were fighting each other to death, with only one allowed to survive. The tycoons laughed and discussed the outcome of the battles as they clinked their glasses with each other. Please, give us something to eat please. The people on the brink of starvation murmured weakly. Living in the city required expensive city fees, and the price kept increasing. They barely managed to contribute some contribution points to purchase food before, but now they had to use all their contribution points to pay the city fee. They had no extra contribution points left for food. The tycoons monopolized the farmland, allowing only their staff to farm there. The grains they grew were genetically modified with a short growth cycle, high productivity, and would decay within a few days if not consumed. The tycoons sold these grains at exorbitant prices. At the end of each day, they destroyed all the unsold grains, taking up space. These genetically modified grains originated from the first region. There, these grains cost only a 20th of the price, and the farmland was not monopolized by the tycoons. The Shadow King encouraged the expansion of arable land and the establishment of a stable base. However, in the third region, the tycoons forbade anyone from privately expanding land. Anyone who violated this order was executed on the spot. The tycoons feared assassination by guns and thus inflated the price of firearms and refused to sell long-range, large-caliber sniper rifles. As a result, many first-rank enhancers had to fight zombies with cold weapons, like dancing on the edge of swords. The tycoons also numbered all firearms. If the gun's number and type did not correspond due to unauthorized modifications, they would arrest the offender immediately. Whether they lived or died depended on whether they could afford to pay contribution points. People who couldn't afford the exorbitant medical fees were thrown out of the hospital by the doctor who stopped their surgery and even their anesthesia, to fend for themselves. Zhang Li treated this person, but he didn't feel happy about it. This was a temporary solution that didn't tackle the actual problem, not even on the surface. Food, arms, medicine, all these areas were dominated by the tycoons. Although there were many tycoons in the third region who competed against each other, the majority cooperated to raise prices. Zhang Li also saw the tycoons using their profits for personal extravagance and enjoyment, with no intention of studying science to restore the original order of humanity. Zhang Li observed every detail within the city. Eventually, he stood at the doorstep of a tycoon and sighed. The corpse-driving sect is not suitable for the third region. Only dark magic is. Search the novel fire, Nati. Yi Du was correct. The third region will not perish due to the zombie waves, but at the hands of these tycoons. Chapter 112 to 112, Friends. Chapter 112. Chapter 112, Friends. Zhang Li no longer cared whether the fan tower would discover him. If he did not make a move, people would suffer and die every second, every minute. Moreover, Zhang Li did not believe that the fan tower was in the third district. The fan tower was an immortal artifact, and it also contained Buddhist treasures. It would definitely take action if it saw such a scene. Stop. Who's there? Zhang Li dispersed his spell. It was no longer visible only to the Yi siblings. Everyone could now see him. The two enhancers guarding the entrance of the financial conglomerate immediately noticed his presence. They had to notice. Zhang Li's dress, appearance, and demeanor were too conspicuous and clashed with the atmosphere of the apocalypse. Just a common man, Zhang Li said coldly. The two enhancers at the entrance of this financial conglomerate armed with firearms, specifically large-caliber handguns, a single bullet from which could pulverize half of a person's body. The two men immediately pulled the triggers. With two bangs, they maintained their shooting stances, but the bullets were stuck in the barrels and didn't fire. Their heads exploded like watermelons. Sir, the financial conglomerate is backed by Longtu. Yi Du stuttered a warning to Zhang Li. Zhang Li said nothing and walked into the building. Yi Wu kicked her dim-witted brother. Fool, he himself had said he was stronger than a 5th-level enhancer. Here he was playing smart and giving unnecessary reminders. Rarely did anyone dare to provoke a financial conglomerate so brazenly. More than half of all 3rd-level enhancers worked for these conglomerates. Who in their right mind would come here to create trouble? The commotion downstairs alerted everyone, but most of them merely laughed it off. Once before, someone relying on their higher skill level had attempted to rob the place and was swiftly subdued by the higher-level enhancers. His eyes were gouged out, his arms severed, and he was thrown into a destroyed city to be chased by zombies while the overlords of the financial conglomerate laughed heartily. As for whether the zombies would evolve after eating this man, that was not a question the tycoons considered. Zhang Li used his divine sense to cover the building. Various documents, experiments, and work records were exhibited before his eyes. Who deserved death and who deserved absolution, he could tell at a glance. Killing everyone would undoubtedly involve innocent blood. But if he was sparing every second person, some criminals would inevitably slip through the net. Those upstairs maintained their smiles for quite a lengthy period, still laughing even when death found them. Who are you? Who sent you to kill me? The head of the arms dealer financial conglomerate was shivering with fear upon seeing the murderous Zhang Li. not I, knowing how many third-level enhancers had died at his hands. Zhang Li did not answer his question, but just calmly walked towards the head of the arms dealer financial conglomerate. The man revealed a strange smile and pressed a button. White fog sprayed out from above and beneath Zhang Li. Boom! A massive explosion occurred on the top floor. This isn't white fog, but micro-bombs. They enter your body and cause a chain reaction of explosions. He clucked his tongue. Under such an explosion, not even a piece of flesh can be left. But his words were abruptly cut off as Zhang Li grasped his neck, causing his face to turn red. The fourth-level enhancers hiding on both sides saw something was wrong and tried to ambush Zhang Li, but with a mere thought, the two enhancers were beheaded. Fifth level, the head of the arms dealer financial conglomerate looked at Zhang Li in disbelief. There were only 5 fifth-level enhancers in the world. Where did this sixth one come from? No, even if he was a fifth-level enhancer, he couldn't possibly kill 2 fourth levels with just a thought. Before he could finish his thought, his neck was broken by Zhang Li. Even though he had anticipated it, seeing the once untouchable higher-up tossed aside like a broken cloth sack by Zhang Li, Yi Du felt as if it was all unreal. That day, Zhang Li successively crushed several financial conglomerates. Finally, he stood beneath the skyscraper of the pharmaceutical financial conglomerate. The enhancers that the Yi siblings had consumed were developed by this conglomerate, although the siblings had only consumed the lowest grade enhancers. Is that a zombie? In one of the laboratories of the skyscraper, Yi Du was dumbfounded by what he saw. Strange, freakish zombies soaked in tanks. Some looked like bears but with octopus tentacles for feet, some had 2 heads, one human and one pig, with a tortoise shell on their back, others had no heads but were all mouths on their limbs. Humans and animals could both turn into zombies. Yi Du had no idea what kinds of animals these zombies had been before death. No, these are humans, and they are still alive. SEAHTHENO circumflex ELFIRE.net. Humans, echoed Yi Du and Yi Wu in shock at the scene before them. Moreover, the most important thing was that the liquid in the tanks looked very familiar, almost like. You're not mistaken, that is the enhancer that you consumed. Zhang Li said, the financiers use humans as filters, filtering out the zombie virus in the air to obtain pure spiritual power. To prevent them from turning into zombies, they are injected with numerous medicines, causing their bodies to change from inside out. But I heard that enhancers are made by diluting the energy from brain cores. Yi Du felt like his entire world was upside down. From his divine sense, Zhang Li could see that they did use brain cores here to produce enhancers, but most of them preferred to use human bodies as filters to produce enhancers. Because it's cheaper. Yi Du couldn't believe that answer. How could anyone do such a thing just because it was cheaper? Zhang Li gently recited a Buddhist chant. The grand, ancient, and dignified sounds made Yi Wu feel like her head was going to burst because of the sheer amount of principles and power it held. Still, the Buddhist chant was a force of compassion and wouldn't kill people. Yi Wu merely felt a moment of dizziness. As the chant came out from Zhang Li's mouth, the tanks shattered. The oddly shaped people were enveloped in a golden light. Yi Wu vaguely saw through the golden light that these people were gradually returning to their original forms. Though he couldn't revive the dead, Zhang Li could still easily revert these people to their original state. Yi Wu followed Zhang Li to the top floor where she saw a burly man seated on a soft couch. A 5th-level enhancer, Longtu. Yi Wu had thought that Longtu was the patriarch who supported these financial conglomerates but never expected him to be the one controlling the largest of them all. Friend, welcome to the 3rd district. Longtu laughed heartily, warmly welcoming Zhang Li. Longtu regarded Zhang Li as a 5th-level enhancer and hence naturally worthy of being his friend. As for his origin, it didn't matter. He must either be a nameless strongman from outside the 5 districts or a lucky 3rd-level enhancer who stumbled upon a 5th-level brain core. I've heard that it's because of the financial conglomerates' wanton exploitation of the common people that you're enraged. Friend, calm down. Since we're both 5th-level enhancers, why quarrel over such trifles? In Longtu's view, Zhang Li might be one of those weaker enhancers who suddenly gained power, but their mental state remains the same as when they were weak, hence they would sympathize with the weak. As a 5th-level enhancer, Longtu believed it was necessary to guide him and show him how a strongman should behave. Don't tell me we became stronger to kill zombies and restore the original social order, subject to those old rules and regulations. Haha, of course not. Didn't we get stronger to enjoy life? Before the apocalypse, I was an underground boxer. I couldn't show my face. But here, I am the sky. I'm the king. Who dares defy me? You're so strong. Wah! Longtu hadn't even had time to react before he was sent flying by a powerful force, spitting up a mouthful of blood. You dog-like thing, how dare you speak to me of friendship? Zhang Li judged his friendships not on the basis of cultivation level. After all, no one was stronger than him. He judged friendships solely based on temperament. Chapter 113 to 113, it's a bit troublesome. Chapter 113, Chapter 113, it's a bit troublesome. You possess such profound power. Why do you still get angry for the weak? Struggling to his feet, Longtu felt astonished. This man's power completely shattered his concept of fifth-order enhancements. No fifth-order enhancement from the 3 districts is as strong as this. This man's power is on par with the Shadow King, no, even superior. 6th order. Unbeknownst to others, this man has achieved an unprecedented feat, becoming a 6th-order enhancement. Zhang Li, of course, had held back, otherwise, Longtu would have died without even realizing it. Zhang Li kicked Longtu out of the skyscraper. The commotion that Zhang Li caused was too large, and countless people were watching him now. When Longtu was kicked out of the skyscraper like a prodigal dog, scrambling in the air, it attracted everyone's attention. Even the lowest classes, those who spend their days toiling for contribution points, began to look up at the situation. Enhancers only amplify their physical aspects and don't possess the ability to float. Longtu used his feet to compress the air and provide a platform for himself to run away. The novel fire net. Run, he must run. Facing a 6th-order enhancer, he had no hope of victory. However, he had barely taken a few steps in the air when he saw Zhang Li appearing before him like a ghost. Boss, can't you get your anger out by beating me? Longtu quickly showed his weakness. I admit defeat, 3rd district is yours. Longtu, scared and sweating profusely, tried to prove his worth. You certainly need subordinates, and I am very familiar with the 3rd district, being one of the only 5 enhancements. You will definitely need me. Watching from the top of the skyscraper, Yi Wu was dumbfounded. She had never seen Longtu, who always held his head high and disdained everyone on the big screen, in such a lowly state. Your power is enough to rule the world. From what I know, the other 4 5th-order enhancers are all unruly fellows. If you take me in, it's like winning hearts. If you kill me, they will surely harbor resentment against you. Even if you're as powerful as you are, you should consider the thoughts of the 5th-order enhancers. In Longtu's view, Zhang Li attacking him and exploiting the lower class was just an excuse. What he really wanted was the 3rd district, or even the whole world. And to rule the world, he would undoubtedly need help. That's where Longtu comes in. A 6th-order powerhouse could definitely wipe out all zombies. It would just be a matter of time. Once the zombies are gone and a new order is established, he would be the main contributor, and by then, what he rules won't be just the 3rd district but countless 3rd districts. Becoming his first follower would certainly yield countless benefits. This was not a crisis but an opportunity. As for Yi Du and Yi Wu, Longtu didn't take them seriously. How can such a waste as a 2nd order qualify to be a follower of a powerhouse like Zhang Li? He is the one and only, the first subordinate. Why should a strong person care about the thoughts of the weak? Zhang Li said indifferently. Before Longtu could react, he saw a fist coming towards him, growing larger and larger. In full view of the public, Zhang Li pulverized Longtu into lumps of mud, leaving no resemblance to a human form. Everyone couldn't believe what they were seeing, but they had to. The strong and arrogant Longtu was dead. The tycoon disappeared. The protector of the tycoon, Longtu was also dead. The mountain that had always loomed over everyone's heads had disappeared. The elites were like death harbingers, holding the scythe of death, urging people to work like clockwork, pouring all their energy into earning contribution points. Without earning contribution points, death awaited. Everyone takes a silent breath of relief. Compared to facing zombies, they were more afraid of facing these elites. But with the elites and Longtu dead, whether this strong stranger who killed Longtu would become another, Longtu, was a question mark at the back of everyone's minds. Zhang Li didn't respond to the speculations of the citizens of the 3rd district, which was unnecessary. Should he tell them he's just a passerby from another world, would they believe him? Seeing the look of doubt and expectation in people's eyes, Zhang Li knew he had achieved his goal. Killing his way into the robber barons, slaughtering Longtu under the eyes of everyone, everything Zhang Li did had only one purpose: to give people hope and awaken their hopeful hearts. Regardless of whether they doubt or anticipate, what's important is their thoughts are no longer rigid and numb. Boss, should we head to the 1st district next? Yi Wu looked at Zhang Li attentively. Knowing he's stronger than a 5th order is one thing, actually witnessing him beat Longtu into a dead dog is another. Of course. Zhang Li nodded affirmatively. He could not possibly stay in the 3rd district forever. Now that he had wiped out all the 4th and 5th order enhancers in the 3rd district, if he left, with just a wave of zombies, the 3rd district would be in great danger. It's going to be a lot of trouble. Yi-Du also nodded. What he actually meant was there will be many deaths. The 3rd district didn't have many strong ones to begin with, and Zhongli had already killed a group of them. Moving nearly 10 million people to the 1st district, with poor organization, carrying loads of food and other necessities, might take several months to reach the 1st district. They wouldn't know how many zombies they would face and how many people would die on this journey. If they were to face a wave of zombies, there would be even more casualties. Even though the boss is strong, he couldn't possibly protect nearly 10 million people at the same time. The boss is a man, not a god. There is indeed a way to save most people, which is to let the boss transport them to the 1st district batch by batch. Send tens of thousands of people in each batch, 100 trips should do. But this method also has risks. If the boss spends most of his time transporting people, then there's no one to protect the 3rd district. If they face a wave of zombies, the district would be annihilated. He only thought about this in his mind and did not utter a word. Speaking out would have caused discomfort. It'll be a bit of a hassle. Zhongli agreed with Yi-Du's viewpoint. He flew to the sky. From his view, the 3rd district was merely the size of a palm. He made a scooping gesture towards the 3rd district. The people of the 3rd district felt a slight tremor and nothing else. However, the guards at the gate of the 3rd district gasped. They would never forget this moment in their lives. The 3rd district is encased by a 100-meter-high metal wall. People on the inside can't see the outside situation, but those guarding the gate could see it clearly. The 3rd district, along with the nearby land, has been molded into one structure by some unknown force, freeing from the fetters of the earth and gravity, and floating in the air in a very unscientific manner. The concepts of faith, gods, and so on had been forgotten in the 10 years following the apocalypse, but at this moment the guards couldn't help but kneel down. There are indeed gods in this world. Chapter 114 to 114, The Pod of Whales. Chapter 114, The Pod of Whales. Someone far away had seen the phenomenon of District 3, and was left speechless by the magnificent spectacle. The 15,000 square kilometer city of District 3 rose from the ground, floating 500 meters above. It reminded people of an ancient giant that had just awoken from a long slumber. When it woke up, it shook the heavens, eclipsed the sun, and cast a vast shadow over the land. This person recalled a cartoon called Castle in the Sky, that he had watched before the apocalypse. An ancient and colossal city that relied on steam power was shown floating through the sky. Buried inside the city was a treasure that many people sought. I haven't watched anime in a long time. I wish I could watch it again. The person fell deep into memories but then noticed something alarming. Wait, if District 3 flew away, where can I go? He began to panic. This man was a 2nd stage enhancer, who hunted zombies in deserted cities because he had no trustworthy teammates. He had left District 3 a few days ago, intending to gather up some brain cores before returning, but why did District 3 fly away just when he was about to return? Fear started to creep into him. No matter how undesirable District 3 might have been, it was still a place for replenishing supplies. Now with it gone, his only fate as a wanderer would be death, either from starvation and thirst, or being eaten by zombies. Just as he was panicking, he realized that he too was being lifted like District 3, drifting towards it. Confused, he returned to District 3, only to find a significant change in the people compared to when he had left. Not to say that they were beaming with happiness, but at least everyone's eyes were filled with hope. After asking around about what had happened in District 3, he learned that the financial oligarchy and Longtu, who had been exploiting them, were already dead. As for why District 3 was able to fly, someone pointed at a shadow overhead. It was presumed it was none but this mysterious strongman who had performed the feat. The news of the city's sudden flight spread rapidly throughout District 3. The people could hardly believe it. They felt nothing but the initial shaking. They heard that on a plane, you would experience a ringing in your ears during takeoff, but they experienced nothing. Was it possible that even a city could fly so smoothly? However, every now and then, some enhanced warriors returned to the city, confirming the news of the city's flight over and over again. Not until they came to the city gate and saw the scenery on both sides retreating, did they fully believe the news. Upon hearing that the entire city had floated in the air, Yi-Du was so surprised that his mouth could not close for a long time. It was he who heard the leader say that it was a bit troublesome, so, lifting District 3 into the air was only considered a bit troublesome. Being in the sky was not entirely safe. Apart from the transformed zombie birds, during the course of transporting District 3 to District 1, Zhongli encountered these whale zombies mentioned by Yi Wu. Countless fish zombies crawled in and out of the gigantic creature as if the whale was a bread mold full of maggots. The whale zombie was oblivious to the fish zombies on its body. It flapped its giant, fleshy wings, stirring up gusts of fishy wind that could make one retch. This whale zombie was a high-ranking zombie that had some semblance of intelligence. However, when it saw the floating city in the sky, it could not figure out how the city flew. No matter how it happened, it knew there must be plenty of food inside the city. Faced with such substantial temptation, it could not let it pass. It let out a long whine, emitting an awful hoarse sound, like 1,000 ghosts wailing in unison from hell. Even though they were uncertain about their duties, the guards continued to protect the city door vigilantly. It seemed their efforts paid off. When they saw the ominous whale zombie approaching, they shouted out in fear. "A whale zombie is attacking." As soon as these words were spoken, they set off a series of reactions. The power of whale zombies far exceeded that of the zombie wave. This was a fear etched deep into their memories. One of the main reasons why humanity was quickly defeated by zombies in the early days was due to these whale zombies. Despite their enormous sizes, whale zombies were astonishingly fast flyers. Besides, their rough skin and thick flesh could even withstand a missile attack without getting a scratch. Whale zombies always attack in herds. This time was no exception. Several tens of whale zombies flew around in the air. Even the color of the sky changed, turning dark, as if to herald the arrival of misfortune. The leading whale zombie led the others, spreading its wings as they flew toward District 3. People began to despair. Though there were plans to counter the whale zombies in District 3, it would require the combined efforts of all 3rd and 4th stage enhancers as well as Long-2. Now that all 4th stage enhancers and Long-2 were dead, would the energy shields of District 3 and the directed energy missiles be enough to fight off the herd of whale zombies? People started to surrender to despair. The powerful figure who killed Long-2 and made District 3 take flight might be safe, but it did not mean he had the ability to protect everyone. If even one whale zombie broke into the city, the enormous quantity of parasitic fish it carried would put District 3 in grave danger. "Quick, contact that powerful figure!" someone screamed. Yes, contact him. As long as we kill them before the whales get too close, we'll be fine." Thinking of Zhongli's power, people's hope reignited. The leading whale zombie was a 5th stage being. Even Long-2 didn't dare to confront it face to face. Though 5th stage enhancers had a strong resistance to the zombie virus, there was still a possibility of being infected. Long-2 was afraid of being infected, so he always relied on the tactic of a human wave to kill the whale zombies. Each battle with a whale swarm resulted in significant casualties. But this powerful figure was different. If he could easily kill Long-2, killing the whale zombie should not be a difficult task. Where is he? This question left everyone dumbfounded. Yes, where was this powerful figure? Everyone suddenly realized that they knew nothing about Zhongli. No real name, no age, no rank, no background, no purpose. Even his current whereabouts were unknown. People once again fell into despair. While others didn't know where Zhongli was, Yi Du did. He wanted to experience the feeling of being in the air, so he went to the city gate, looking down from above, when this incident happened. The moment Yi Du saw the whale zombies, his mind went blank. The dread from the past occupied his mind, so it was not until he heard people discussing finding Zhongli that he remembered that he could find Zhongli. He took out his walkie-talkie. Zhongli was sitting on a sofa with his legs up on a wooden table. Lifting District 3 required nothing more than locking down the space around the district using his mind and lifting the tiny city of just over 10,000 square meters. EAH the novel ir.net. Zhongli also released his divine sense, retrieving those who had left the city. As expected, his divine sense spotted the disgusting and sickening sight of whale zombies with their parasitic fish. Zhongli clicked his tongue, feeling that his eyes had been polluted. Immediately, thick dark clouds gathered in the sky. Massive purple-green bolts of lightning descended, completely obliterating the whale zombies and their parasitic fish, leaving not a trace of residue. Zhongli facepalmed in regret. I forgot to save the brain cores. Although the brain cores were irrelevant to him, they were precious resources for the people of District 3. Sis, quickly tell the leader, there's a swarm of whales. Yi Du was talking to Yi Wu via walkie-talkie, but before he could finish, he saw the dark clouds accompanying the whale swarm change. A terrifying bolt of lightning fell, killing all the whale zombies. What happened? What's happened with the whale swarm? Yi Wu anxiously asked as she harbored a deep-seated fear towards whale swarms. Nothing. Perplexed, Yi Du put down the walkie-talkie and started to ponder. He supposed he had to adjust to the leader's methods. It wasn't good to be always taken by surprise. Chapter 115 to 115 Shadow King. Chapter 115. Chapter 115 Shadow King. Zone 1, Command Center. The universally acknowledged strongest human, the Shadow King, was staring at the projected map, frowning in deep thought. The map projection occupied an entire wall, showing the unfolded state of the planet. It displayed the high risk, purple zones, dangerous, red zones, alert, yellow zones, caution, blue zones that made up most of this map. These corresponded to the control areas of 5th level, 4th level, 3rd level, and 2nd level zombies respectively. The ruined city where Zhongli first landed belonged to the alert, yellow zone on this map. Of course, the 3rd grade zombies there have already disappeared. The zone didn't meet the yellow standard requirements anymore, and it should have turned blue. However, in this era, the transmission of information was a very difficult task, so the map hadn't been updated yet. The 4 color zones spread across the globe, indicating that a significant portion of the planet had fallen into being the gathering place for zombies. Safe, white areas were only 5 in number, representing the 5 major human regions. The white zone around Zone 1 was the largest, equivalent to the sum of the white zones of Zone 2 and Zone 3. Although the white zones were considered safe, they were not absolutely safe. Once, the humans had 8 white zones, each protected by a 5th level powerhouse guarding each city. However, it wasn't just the humans who had 5th level powerhouses. Zones 6 to 8 fell in exactly this way. Of these 3 5th level enhancers, 2 were eaten by zombies, and 1 turned into a 5th level zombie. The most tricky aspect of zombies was not their power, but their infectiousness. If it were not for the development of the antidote, which could save those who haven't completely turned into zombies, the human territory would be even smaller. If the 5 zones could unite, the safety of all mankind can be guaranteed. Shadow King sighed. The strategy of promoting the integration of the 5 zones had not yielded results. Now, there might be even worse things happening, leaving humanity like a candle in the wind, at risk of being extinguished at any moment. Shadow King's attention was not on land, but on the ocean. The zombies causing the world's downfall originated from the ocean. Now, the zombies causing mankind's extinction also originated from the ocean. Thinking of the ocean report brought back by the scouts, Shadow King opened his palm and rubbed his temples lightly with his thumb and middle finger. The ocean was marked black, symbolizing the unknown. Other 5th level powerhouses didn't pay much attention to the ocean. They thought that the most dangerous whale group was already on the shore and there wouldn't be zombies in the sea that could overturn mankind. Shadow King always dreaded the ocean. He felt that there must be unknown changes happening in the ocean, which prompted him to dispatch a team to investigate. Of a small team composed of 10 4th level powerhouses, only 2 returned alive. They brought back both information and bad news. A 6th level zombie was about to be born in the ocean. However, this could also be an opportunity for unity. Shadow King tried to see the brighter side. Now that there was solid evidence of the danger in the ocean, the other 4 5th level powerhouses had no choice but to believe. The 5 of them could join forces and go out to sea, to prevent the birth of the 6th level zombie. But that bastard Longtu. The Shadow King remembered Longtu from the 3rd zone, and a murderous intent started to rise in him. That person was the worst among the bad ones, indulging in sensual pleasure, enslaving others. If not for his combat effectiveness and his role in protecting Zone 3, he would have killed him already. Apart from Longtu, the other 4 were doing their best to restore the original order of human society. Report. Quote, "Come in." The subordinate who entered the commanding center said respectfully to the Shadow King, "King, Zone 3 is here." Shadow King frowned and scolded the subordinate. "Speak properly, what do you mean by Zone 3 is here? Does Zone 3 have legs to run here?" Shadow King was full-blooded, hot and bright, exerting a tremendous pressure on others. His fluctuating emotions now made it even more intense, causing the subordinate's legs to go weak, almost falling to his knees. The subordinate swallowed hard and said in an unbelievable tone, "It didn't grow legs, Zone 3 flew over. It's outside. If you go out and see, you will know." Quote. Although he knew that his subordinate wouldn't lie, logically speaking, Shadow King still couldn't believe what the subordinate said. When Shadow King walked out of the command center, and with wide open eyes, he saw the grand city in the sky flying towards Zone 1, he had to believe the scene before his eyes. But what's the rationale behind this? Theoretically, he could move a city as well, with the difficulty lying in the fact that a city isn't unified, and it's impossible to lift the entire city up. Taking a step back, even if Zone 3 was a unified entity, it shouldn't have been outrageous enough to be able to fly. All preparations. Shadow King ordered his subordinates to get ready for battle. The methods of Zone 3 were unknown, and Longtu was not a good character. They couldn't let their guard down just because it's Zone 3. Shadow King had reasons to be cautious. A city was moved over. How could Zone 3 possibly not contact Zone 1 in advance? If the city of Zone 3 flew over Zone 1's head and then landed, Shadow King didn't dare to imagine that scene. Zone 1 was strictly disciplined, and the subordinates did not panic. They obeyed Shadow King's orders, aiming the missiles at Zone 3, just waiting for Shadow King to give the order, and then they would fire. Shadow King didn't attack rashly. He rose into the sky to see what was going on. Even if Zone 3 had good intentions, it absolutely couldn't let a city fly over Zone 1's head. The risk was too great. But before Shadow King could get to Zone 3 gradually descended and halted firmly near Zone 1. The whole process didn't even make a sound. Shadow King, a strange man in ancient costume, came out of the city of Zone 3, smiling with his hands behind his back, giving off an ethereal demeanor. His righteous and open nature made him seem in control of everything, like an immortal being, which was strikingly at odds with the apocalyptic environment where all the people were fearful for their lives. Shadow King's first impression of the strange man was not that of a warrior, but of a banished immortal. Behind him were a man and a woman. The woman, apart from being beautiful, didn't have anything worth noticing. Shadow King looked at Yidu for a while longer. Yidu was showing off an expression of, "I've seen a lot and won't be surprised anymore," but in reality, it looked more like, "I'm a follower but I'm very arrogant." Yiwu felt embarrassed and kicked Yidu, and only then did Yidu's expression return to normal. The siblings were actually both very excited, but after following Zhongli for a long time, they learned to control their expressions. Shadow King was their idol, whom they had only seen on the big screen in the past. Now, they finally saw him in person. "Yes, I am Luo Ying." In the face of the stranger, Shadow King did not dare to be negligent. "It might be this man who made Zone 3 take off. May I ask where Longtu is?" "Let me introduce myself. I am Zhongli." The strange man smiled. "As for Longtu, he's already dead." In Zone 1, both ordinary people who had never been enhanced, and those at the first and second stages of enhancement, greeted the Shadow King as they passed him, to which the Shadow King always nodded in response. Zhongli clearly saw the respect and admiration people had for the Shadow King. Zhongli noticed that, from time to time, enhanced individuals would return from outside the city with harvested resources, keeping some of the brain cores for themselves and exchanging the rest for contribution points, which were 3 times more valuable here than in Zone 3. The November Fire. NET. Zone 1 established a guild for enhanced individuals, fostering trust and enabling them to share knowledge and form effective teams. Even though betrayals still occurred, they were significantly less frequent compared to Zone 3. Moreover, the Shadow King financed research on how to more efficiently use brain cores to create more powerful warriors, how to counteract the zombie virus, and whether those who had turned into zombies could possibly revert to their former selves. Zhongli knew that it was impossible for a zombie to revert back to its human form. The moment a person became a zombie, they were essentially dead, and even he could not bring them back. The overall atmosphere of Zone 1 was optimistic, positive, and full of hope, a stark contrast to Zone 3. "Everything I heard was true. Zone 1 is indeed a wonderful place," Zhongli affirmed, feeling relieved with his decision to leave Zone 3 in the Shadow King's charge. "I hope you do not mind that I brought Zone 3 with me," Luo Ying thought with a smile. "Mind? It's more like a miracle. Are you the new ruler of Zone 3? Zhongli shook his head. "I've never been a ruler, it doesn't suit my personality. The previous ruler of Zone 3 was Longtu, now it's you." "Me?" Luo Ying was shocked. He had assumed that at most Zone 3 would form an alliance with Zone 1. He never expected that he would become the ruler of 2 zones in the blink of an eye. "You're saying that I, a Stage 5 enhancer, am now ruling over 2 zones? What exactly are you?" Luo Ying hesitated to ask. The scene of Zone 3 flying over was too spectacular and had greatly exceeded the realms of human possibility. "Zhongli, from another world." "Another world?" Zhongli patiently explained. "Each universe is a separate world, with endless voids between them. You can think of it like blowing bubbles, each world is like a bubble, and the void is like the air." "Could I travel to your world then?" Luo Ying asked eagerly, looking at Zhongli unblinkingly. He believed that Zhongli's world must be incredibly advanced. He wanted to travel there to learn more and come back to solve the zombie problem. Zhongli shook his head and gently replied, "Your strength is not enough yet. According to the cultivation system of your world, you would probably need to reach the 7th stage to briefly stay in the void, and the 8th stage to traverse through the void and travel between worlds." The 8th stage? Luo Ying was taken aback. He hadn't heard of the void before, and he didn't know how dangerous the turbulent void could be. He thought that as a Stage 5 enhancer, with his strong physical body, he wouldn't have any issues. He had no choice but to put aside his thoughts of world travel for now. However, if I can find a certain tower, your desire to travel between worlds might not be impossible. A tower. Luo Ying didn't understand how a building could help him travel between worlds. This didn't make sense. To be precise, it's a Buddha treasure taking the form of a tower, blessed by Buddha. However, it seems to avoid me. Why? Luo Ying was curious. Perhaps it's afraid I'll break it, Zhang Li replied uncertainly. During their last encounter, he hadn't exerted much force, merely almost shattering a few immortal artifacts. Somehow, though, he seemed to have left a deep psychological trauma on the Fanshan Tower, which now avoided him at all costs. I have some doubts about my combat techniques, and since you come from an extraordinary place, would you be able to guide me? Having learned that Zhang Li was a powerful figure from another world, Luo Ying decided to change the way he addressed him. Zhang Li chuckled. He could tell that Luo Ying was still dubious, using the pretense of guidance as a method of testing. Even so, Zhang Li felt that Luo Ying was a promising candidate. If he were in the JoJo world, he would have the potential to reach the body integration realm, so guiding him could prove beneficial. Zhang Li placed his hand on Luo Ying's shoulder. Before the latter had time to react, he found himself transported to an open area. Luo Ying immediately put aside his suspicions, realizing the stark difference in their abilities. Luo Ying positioned himself, placing his left palm behind him and his right fist in front. Be careful, master. This move is called the Flying Dragon Shattering Mountain Fist, capable of breaking mountains and splitting rivers. With a loud cry, Luo Ying exerted his full strength into his punch. This was a technique he had developed by integrating all the fighting styles he had learned, accounting for his unique physique and the observations he had made of the mountains and rivers. It was refined through continual battles with zombies, perfecting it into its current form. The muscles on Luo Ying's back bulged, his limbs were taut, and the friction between the muscle and bone produced a slight crackling sound. He dug his toes into the ground, pushed up on his ankle, keeping his calves straight. His waist twisted, his shoulders, elbows, and wrists exerted force simultaneously, and his entire body seemed to be a proud dragon head, powerful and imposing. As Luo Ying struck out with all his might, his vigorous vital energy boiled over, signifying his peak condition which all stage 5 enhancers would envy. Zhang Li, however, shook his head subtly. While it was good to have vigorous vital energy, it was essential to keep it restrained unless in battle, otherwise it would be too wasteful. Clearly, Luo Ying was unable to control his excessive vital energy, causing it to radiate outwards and intimidate his subordinates. Zhang Li stood still, allowing Luo Ying's fist to strike him. Luo Ying's fists could obliterate anything in their way. Even stage 5 enhancers who got hit would cough up blood. His boasts of being able to break mountains and split rivers were not empty words, he had genuinely accomplished such feats. However, when his fist made contact with Zhang Li, it felt as though he was punching solid ground, no, something even more sturdy than the earth. Luo Ying was stunned. Even when he punched the earth, it would reverberate, but when he hit Zhang Li, the latter didn't even flinch. Luo Ying was sent flying backwards from the recoil, but he was plucked out of the air by Zhang Li, who grabbed his wrist and pulled him back. Conserve your vital energy. Zhang Li took action, pressing a few acupoints on Luo Ying's body. Luo Ying distinctly felt his uncontrollable vital energy returning to his body, filling him with power. Overjoyed, Luo Ying was about to express his gratitude when Zhang Li instructed, "Strike again, remember this feeling." Luo Ying repeatedly threw punches, each one causing a sonic boom, their power even surpassing his previous strikes. Although his punches still had no effect on Zhang Li, he knew beyond a doubt that he had become stronger than before. What Luo Ying didn't know was that his strikes hadn't even made contact with Zhang Li. There was a thin layer of force field around Zhang Li, difficult for the average person to detect, that blocked all attacks. Thank you for your guidance, master. Luo Ying bowed deeply to Zhang Li. This was a token of his gratitude for both his guidance and his life-saving advice. It gave Luo Ying additional hope in his mission to stop the zombies from evolving in the sea. Master is kind, I know you have no obligation to help us. I'm listening. Chapter 116 to 116, Appearance of the Brahma Tower. Chapter 116. Chapter 116, Appearance of the Brahma Tower. Upon hearing Zhang Li's words, Luo Ying quickly composed herself, slowing down her rapid breath from the intense exercise. I've been wondering what could have happened in the oceans that could produce something like a zombie virus. After collecting clues for years, I have a daring conjecture. You may not believe it, Luo Ying paused, the zombie virus may have come from an alien planet. Luo Ying's world hasn't reached the stage of interstellar migration yet, and hadn't encountered any extraterrestrial life, and thus didn't know that there were many life-sustaining planets in a universe. Luo Ying's conjecture was very bold, but not many believed in it. She didn't even expect that Zhang Li would believe in her conjecture either. Oh. Out of courtesy, Zhang Li gave a short acknowledgement. Predicament from an alien planet was nothing unusual. There was nothing to fuss over it. I once went to the space agency of a certain country and managed to find the near-Earth monitoring data right before the outbreak of the zombie crisis. I found that an object resembling the wreckage of an alien spaceship had fallen into the ocean. Maybe the zombie virus came from that spaceship's wreckage. Luo Ying brought Zhang Li to the command center and showed him the data that the reconnaissance team had brought back some days ago. I sent 10 fourth-stage enhancers to investigate the present conditions of the ocean. They discovered that the number of first and second stage zombies in the ocean has drastically dropped, but the number of third stage and above zombies have massively increased. Moreover, the people that returned reported that ordinarily, first and second stage zombies would pounce upon any human they see, even if that person was a fourth stage enhancer. However, this time, all first and second stage zombies behaved as if they were scared, hiding as much as possible, and fled at their sight. Luo Ying presented a few blurry photographs. These are shots of zombies fighting among themselves. Although blurry, Zhang Li could make out scenes of shark, octopus, and dolphin-like zombies gnawing at each other with ferocious violence. Zombies' main targets are living organisms. They rarely attack their kind unless they have a certain purpose. I have witnessed a zombie killing all the first and second stage zombies in a small town just to evolve into the third stage, about 3 years ago. I suspect that the same thing is happening in the ocean, but it's not as simple as mere evolution to the third stage, Luo Ying said seriously. The aquatic lifeforms were numerous, and if they were to turn into zombies, their number would be astronomical. Now almost all these zombies have vanished. Where had all their cerebrum that disappeared with them gone? The power contained in these cerebrum was enough to amass several fifth-stage zombies, possibly even more. Luo Ying concluded. The zombies want to birth a sixth-stage zombie. Just as a sixth-stage enhancer could overcome the zombie crisis, a sixth-stage zombie could obliterate humanity. Sixth-stage zombies within Kyushu would be akin to body integration realm. However, in Zhang Li's observation, the cultivation system in Luo Ying's world was too crude. Even if they reached the sixth-stage equivalent to body integration realm, they would probably not even be able to beat the base level of body integration realm, Zan I Daogu, S.E.A.H. the Novel Fire, net. As the strongest person of the fifth stage, Luo Ying could roughly sense how much energy would be needed for a fifth stage to evolve into the sixth. By a conservative estimate, it would require at least 15 fifth-stage zombies cerebrum, a number that existing humans could not possibly amass. If humans had the capability to kill 15 fifth-stage zombies, they would have already solved the zombie crisis a long time ago. Luo Ying pointed at the ocean on the map. Moreover, those third, fourth, and fifth-stage zombies all seem to be converging in this direction, and this position is roughly where the wreckage of the alien spaceship fell. The difference between the fifth and sixth stage wasn't significant to Zhang Li, and he could easily handle them. If that's the case, then I will take care of those in the Siam. Zhang Li suddenly paused, lifted his head abruptly, and looked in a direction. He sensed signs of space being torn apart there. In the sky above the planet, amidst countless abandoned satellites, space twisted, and a small golden tower appeared in space. The form of the small tower was vague, as if separated from this world by layers of thin membranes. Are there any similar kinds here? The small golden tower looked at this planet and asked casually. A space appeared behind the tower, filled with Buddhist light. Sacred and solemn, monks and novices were chanting sutras. It was an immense sight, just like another Mount Sumeru. The small tower was naturally the Fantian Tower. Answering my lord, yes, there is one of our kind who piloted a spaceship and came to this planet. By now, 10 years later, this planet should be dominated by our own kind, replied a monk in Kasaya, his hand placed against his chest in a gesture of respect. If any enhancer saw this scene, they would be downright frightened. These weren't monks or novices at all, but a group of zombies. And they were high-level zombies, most of them 4th and 5th stage, and there were even 6th stage zombies. Amitabha, Fantian Tower shook its body, feeling helpless towards the immeasurable karma caused by the zombies. After it crossed into this world, it found that there was nothing that could be called living beings around it. Heaven, earth, gods, humans, ghosts, insect, Dracena, scales, feathers, and larvae, none of these 10 categories of living beings existed, there were only zombies. It thought it came to the wrong world and accidentally entered the underworld, so it tried to find another habitable planet, but the results turned out as before, nothing but zombies. This planet only had one zombie, a 6th stage zombie. It was evolved by killing all the living beings and zombies on the planet. The intelligence of this zombie was not inferior to humans, only like an infant, its IQ was far from sufficient. As the Fan Tien Tower, naturally skilled in Buddhist law, it believed in Buddha and had the idea of saving it. And it actually succeeded. This zombie was still in the learning stage. To Fan Tien Tower's surprise, it had agreed to convert to Buddhism under its persuasion. The Fan Tien Tower sensed that the zombie's thoughts were chaotic and needed guidance. The Buddhist law was just the right tool for people to understand the truth and open their intelligence, so Fan Tien Tower considered subjugating the zombies. Heaven Seal wouldn't be faster than it. When the immortal artifacts gathered in the future to overthrow the tyrannical rule of the human emperor and establish the spiritual treasure dynasty, it would have something to flaunt in terms of merit. Moreover, even if it didn't establish the Buddha land, Fan Tien Tower still needed to subjugate the zombies. It could see the harm of the zombies, which was a disaster that could destroy a planet. Moreover, sixth-stage zombies even had the ability to travel in space. Wherever it descended, that planet would be destroyed. According to the sixth-stage zombie, there was originally another sixth-stage zombie, but it had already traveled to other planets. Accompanied by this sixth-stage zombie, Fan Tien Tower returned to the original planet wanting to convert all zombies, but it found that fourth and fifth stage zombies were relatively easy to convert. The conversion of those below the fourth stage would be very difficult, consuming a lot of time. Even when the fourth and fifth stage zombies were converted for a while, it was hard to keep it for a long time. They need a long time to repeatedly recite the sutras. Fan Tien Tower couldn't stay on one planet converting zombies only. As the sixth stage zombies traveled interstellar, they were spreading the zombie virus. Maybe other planets were deeply plagued by the zombie crisis, and humans needed it to save them. Chapter 117-117 Finding the Fragments of the Immortal Heaven Ladder. Chapter 117. Chapter 117 Finding the Fragments of the Immortal Heaven Ladder. For efficiency's sake, the Tower of Brahma created a space, stuffed the level 4, 5, and 6 zombies into it, and traveled with this space to other planets. Just as it had anticipated, copious life-bearing planets have already fallen victim to the level 6 zombie. Every one of them was completely overrun with zombies, with no life left. The Tower of Brahma continually journeyed across the universe, pursuing the escaped level 6 zombie. It found out that the zombie virus was already spreading throughout the universe, as level 6 zombies were constantly being born and moving on to other worlds. It had visited dozens of life-bearing planets, and all were infested with zombies, a truly disheartening sight. During its travels, several times it felt a pull of force trying to drag it back to JoJo. It deployed its spatial abilities and fled at rapid speed. It couldn't allow a fall in JoJo before completing its great endeavor. The Tower of Brahma also encountered a planet where the technological advancement had reached a stage where it was possible to mine energy from a constant star. Yet, that still couldn't stand up against the devastation of the level 6 zombie. The planet itself, along with its colonies, all became zombie nests. The inhabitants of the planet constructed an enormous spaceship that could fit millions of people. They tried to flee their homeland and were seeking a livable planet. However, a noble snuck their infected daughter on board, which led to the entire spaceship becoming a zombie nest. Upon hearing of an infected individual who, whilst still conscious, drove an escape spaceship away from the zombie nest, the Tower of Brahma followed the spaceship's track and arrived above Luo Ying's planet. It sensed that, despite the hordes of zombies on the planet, there were still survivors of the human race, instantly bringing a sense of elation. Finally, after facing zombies every single day, actual living humans were found at last. The Tower of Brahma suddenly felt a pang of unease. "My master, what seems to be the issue?" A level 6 zombie questioned. "I have a sudden dreadful premonition," the Tower of Brahma answered hesitantly. Having been imbued with consciousness, it had never experienced a feeling like this before. "Could there be something on this planet that threatens me? That's not plausible," it murmured to itself. Being an immortal artifact, there was hardly anything that could pose a threat to it. Even level 7 or 8 zombies weren't a cause for concern. "I've found you," a horrifying voice emerged from below. The Tower of Brahma, feeling a chill run down its fell, twisted its structure to look down, and nearly lost its soul in fright. The human emperor of JoJo was hurtling out from the planet's surface, heading directly towards it with an imposing aura. "Run!" Instantly, the Tower of Brahma made its decision. It ripped the space open and ducked in. As for the zombies it brought along, they could wait. The immediate priority was to escape. The group of zombies looked at each other in consternation as they saw the Tower of Brahma vanish before their eyes, struggling to comprehend its actions. "Buddha bless, our master must have a plan," said one of them. Zhang Li flew to where the Tower of Brahma had just been and cast a glance over the group of zombies bathed in the Buddha's light. He quickly understood what the Tower of Brahma had done on this world and revealed a faint smile. The space ripped open by the Tower of Brahma was already mending itself, only to be ripped open again by Zhongli. It should be safe now, the Tower of Brahma murmured to itself uneasily as it arrived at a constant star, far from its previous location. It was dozens of light years away from where it had been. Even the exceptional human emperor of Jojo couldn't possibly exceed the speed of light to reach it. Having heard that the human emperor was not adept in spatial manipulation, the Tower of Brahma was even more confident that it wouldn't be caught. To its shock, the space it had just ripped was torn open again with Zhongli's head poking out while his body remained in a different dimension, looking down at it. The Tower of Brahma swore in its mind, accusing the emperor, all the while tearing the space apart with its hands again. Zhongli may not have been adept in manipulating space, but if anyone dared to rip apart the space to escape, he could do the same and follow the trajectory to catch up. Run again. The Tower of Brahma once again warped through the space, only to be followed by Zhongli quickly after. Although Zhongli could keep up with the pace of the Brahma Sky Tower, the speed at which the tower's space jumped was too fast, nearly without any pause, which caused him significant trouble. The Brahma Sky Tower kept fleeing through the universe, sometimes reaching the asteroid belt, sometimes delving deep into the heart of planets, with Zhongli relentlessly pursuing it from behind. The tower even threw many spatial cubes at Zhongli. He brought his fingers together, flicked them to the side, and all the dimensional cubes flew past him, blasting countless planets into oblivion. Take this, the Brahma Sky Tower shouted, cutting the space where Zhongli stood into pieces, like tearing a piece of paper into 7 or 8 fragments, and naturally, the figures on the paper would be separated along with the torn paper. Head, 4 limbs, 2 segments of the torso, Zhongli's body was moved to 7 different spaces. Zhongli could see his back with his own eyes, which felt absolutely strange. He could control every part of his body, as if his body had just been separated from the superficial space, but at a deeper space level, his body was still connected. Zhongli cried out loudly, putting his body back together and continued to pursue the Brahma Sky Tower. A man in a tower chasing all over the universe, reaching heaven and earth, nowhere was left untouched. After several days' relentless chase, the Brahma Sky Tower finally fled this world, tearing the space apart and heading toward the void. Zhongli followed suit, entering the void and delivering a punch to the tower. The several layers of spatial protection, encircling the Brahma Sky Tower, shattered one by one. The remaining energy impacted the tower, making its body tremble and momentarily disconcerted. In this opportunity, Zhongli reached out his hand to grab the tower. The Brahma Sky Tower tried to use its spatial powers to escape from Zhongli's hand, but it was horrified to find that Zhongli's hand was like Forbidden Zone. It could not use its spatial powers at all. Ha ha ha, finally, I've caught you. Be proud, you're the penultimate one that I've caught. Zhongli laughed menacingly, like a villain. Who else have you not caught? The Brahma Sky Tower asked despondently. Past and present sword. Bringing you back to Jojo doesn't mean that I will kill you. Why are you running? We immortal artifacts are free. The Brahma Sky Tower clamored, your human race is oppressing immortal artifacts, we must resist. Mount Sumeru's old Buddha died, and Wu Ji became the new Buddha, Zhongli suddenly said. What? The Brahma Sky Tower was taken aback. Mount Sumeru was invaded by the heavenly demon, and the old Buddha died. Zhongli shook his head, the old Buddha was bewitched by the demon, and he was killed by me. Zhongli stopped in mid-sentence, and the Brahma Sky Tower understood what he meant. It anxiously said, but Wu Ji is only at the nascent soul stage, how can he command respect? What if others bully him? Although Mount Sumeru's status is determined by the Buddhist law, that only applies to those monks with high attainment in Buddhism. Those ordinary monks definitely think that Wu Ji is unworthy of his position and would marginalize him. Zhongli knew he had guessed correctly. The Brahma Sky Tower recognized Wu Ji's Buddhist nature and cared about him, otherwise, Wu Ji wouldn't have possessed the genuine Brahma Sky Tower, rather than a knockoff. Even if the old Buddha had handed over the Brahma Sky Tower to Wu Ji to protect him, due to the dignity of an immortal artifact, the tower would not allow a nascent soul stage to own it. Bringing the Brahma Sky Tower back to Jojo forcefully was just a temporary measure. If he wanted the tower to truly stay in Jojo, he needed to rely on emotions. Alright, I'll go back with you, the Brahma Sky Tower said. It felt a natural kinship with Wu Ji, even before it had attained sentience, and this feeling intensified after it did. It knew that with the old Buddha present, Wu Ji could grow smoothly, so it left without worry. Now that the old Buddha had died, it felt the duty to fulfill its role as a Buddhist treasure and protect Wu Ji. But first, we need to go back and deal with the zombie issue, the Brahma Sky Tower said. Exactly what Zhongli wanted. Both man and tower returned to the zombie world. Discovered fragment of immortal ascension stairway. Chapter 118 to 118, the task of choosing 1 out of 3. Chapter 118, the task of choosing 1 out of 3. When Zhongli and Brahma Stupa once again entered the zombie world, the previously silent system suddenly sprung into action. Detected fragments of the Immortal Ascension Ladder. Confirming location of Immortal Ascension Ladder fragments. Updating special mission, find the fragments of the Immortal Ascension Ladder. Confirming mission, please select one from the following special missions. Special Mission 1. Help Luo Ying solve the zombie crisis on his planet within 10 years. Mission reward. Extract a quarter of the Immortal Ascension Ladder fragment from Luo Ying's body. Special Mission 2. Help Luo Ying solve the zombie crisis on his planet within 2 years. Mission reward. Extract half of the Immortal Ascension Ladder fragment from Luo Ying's body. Special Mission 3. Help Luo Ying solve the zombie crisis on his planet within 6 months. Mission reward. Harvest the entire Immortal Ascension Ladder fragment from Luo Ying's body. The Immortal Ascension Ladder fragment is inside Luo Ying. Zhongli was taken aback. After hearing about the find the fragments of the Immortal Ascension Ladder mission for the first time, he had assumed the system wouldn't unveil it until a few years from now. But surprisingly, here it was. Plus, this was the first time he could choose from 3 missions. It's becoming more user-friendly. Beyond the joy, confusion set in next. He had met Luo Ying before but didn't notice any system activity. Why was there a show going on now? Instead of choosing a task immediately, he asked, if I extract the Immortal Ascension Ladder fragment from Luo Ying's body, what impact would it have on Luo Ying? Zhongli was worried it would have a negative impact on Luo Ying. For instance, memory loss, loss of strength, emotional changes, and worst of all, death. No impact whatsoever. Then I choose Special Mission 3. Special Mission 3 has been selected, the countdown begins now. A countdown of 6 months appeared on the system screen. It was as if the system was artificially creating an atmosphere of urgency, but Zhongli was as steady as an old dog. Solving the zombie crisis in 6 months was a piece of cake for him. 6 months was too long. He felt that even 6 hours was too much. What's wrong? Brahma Stupa, who was in mid-flight, looked at the frozen Zhongli and couldn't help but ask. When a person in a tower reached the planet, Brahma Stupa circled around the area. However, it could not find the group of zombie monks it had brought along. Strange, where are they? Brahma Stupa scanned the nearby space but still couldn't find the space filled with zombie monks. By rights, without my permission, no one should be able to enter or exit that space, nor should it be movable, so where did it go? Brahma Stupa was confident about its grasp of the ways of space. Perhaps there were immortals in the immortal realm who might have a better understanding, but there was no one who could surpass it outside the immortal realm. Did they go to the wrong planet? That was even more impossible. It couldn't make a basic mistake with spatial positioning. Look down there, does the environment look different from when we left? Zhongli was observing the surface of the planet, and he spoke hesitantly. SEARH the NO circumflex velire.net. Brahma Stupa also looked down, surprised to find the planet below was bursting with life. Skyscrapers were everywhere, and there was a continuous flow of people. How is that possible? It twisted its head to ask Zhongli, the technology on this planet is so advanced, could they have rebuilt it in just a few days? If they had that ability, they would have solved the zombie crisis a long time ago. Zhongli shook his head. Moreover, there are now over 1 billion people here. A few days ago, there were only tens of millions. People can't just pop up out of nowhere. There must have been changes in the past few days that we weren't aware of. Zhongli didn't mention that the system suddenly issued a mission, which might be related to the changes on this planet. Let's go down and take a look. It has been several days, why hasn't he come back yet? Luo Ying was somewhat anxious. Ever since Zhongli said he would return soon and then flew off to who knows where, several days had passed. Zhongli didn't return, and he was worried about the situation in the ocean. He sent his subordinates to gather the latest news from the ocean, and found that even the Tier 3 zombies were rare now. This meant that the energy pyramid was continuously rising, concentrating on higher tier zombies. Enough is enough. We can't wait any longer. If we keep waiting, a Tier 6 zombie will be born. Luo Ying stood up, intending to persuade the other Tier 5 strengtheners. If Zhongli returned before the Tier 6 zombies were born, all would be well. But what if Zhongli returned only after the Tier 6 zombies were born? Even being late by 1 day would be unacceptable. A Tier 6 zombie could sweep through the 5 major areas in 1 day. He couldn't gamble on how fast Zhong Li would return or how quickly a Tier 6 zombie would be born. Luo Ying went to Zone 2, Zone 4, and Zone 5 successively. He exposed everything that happened in the ocean and presented all the evidence to persuade them to dive into the deep sea with him and stop the evolution of the zombies. Who would have thought that the Tier 5 strengtheners from these three areas would grossly take advantage of the situation, endlessly demanding benefits from Zone 1. Running out of time, he had to acquiesce. At times like these, they're still demanding benefits from me. Luo Ying bit down hard, wishing he could kill these three bastards. On the way to the ocean, the three strengtheners exchanged glances, showing a trace of scheming smiles. Luo Ying was still too green, too impulsive. Actually, their three regions knew of the danger in the ocean and were also investigating it, but they were all doing it covertly. They deliberately acted nonchalant about the ocean, and let Luo Ying worry alone. In this way, when Luo Ying sought their help, they could sell their assistance at a high price, demanding technology, powerhouse, food and so on from Zone 1. Of course, while they schemed, they still had to make an effort when necessary, otherwise, in the event of a total defeat in the ocean, they won't stand a chance either. The three Tier 5 strengtheners were highly skilled, each had a record of standing up to 2 Tier 5 zombies. Their combined force reduced Luo Ying's pressure significantly. The body of a Tier 5 strengthener was formidable. Even the toughest metal was not as hard as their skin. They could withstand the terrifying pressure of the deep ocean and could go without oxygen for a long time. The four of them moved slightly, rhythmically in sync, disrupting the ocean currents and enabling them to swim like dolphins in the water. Anyone who could perform this movement must have practiced for a long time. Luo Ying had repeatedly mimicked sea creatures to dive into the ocean, and this was how he developed his current technique. But how could these three guys be as adept as him? It suddenly dawned on Luo Ying that he had been duped by these three. They'd been concerned about the ocean for a while and had made preparations, but no one said a word, causing him to be the scapegoat. Reviewing these events now was disgusting. However, the priority at the moment was to disrupt zombie evolution. He'll settle accounts with this bunch of bastards later. There were even fewer Tier 4 zombies in the ocean now, indicating the astonishing speed of zombie evolution. The four of them were alarmed. They went all out, fought for their survival, jointly killed the Tier 4 zombies and isolated Tier 5 zombies, using these zombies' brain nuclei to enhance themselves. Chapter 119-119, Rebirth of the Strongest in the Apocalypse. Chapter 119. Chapter 119 Inches Rebirth of the Strongest in the Apocalypse. Flying Dragon Shattering Mountain Fist. Luo Ying, out of habit, yelled out his move, feeling it added momentum. With a swing of a punch, he repelled the seawater, creating a vacuum, and the 5th-tier zombies that faced this punch were blasted to death without even managing to put up a fight. Under the guidance of Zhong Li, Luo Ying drew upon his abundant vitality, executing a level of combat prowess he had never demonstrated before. The other three looked at the suddenly invigorated Luo Ying with shock. In their eyes, there was something unfathomably deep about Luo Ying. They wondered how he could have changed so drastically in just a month. Regardless, Luo Ying getting stronger was good news. The group had reached the ocean floor at a depth of 11,000 meters. This was almost the deepest part of the water, with the pressure so immense that it could stun the human mind. 4th-tier zombies couldn't withstand it, only 5th tiers could. The ocean was too deep for sunlight to penetrate, rendering everything pitch black. Vision was completely useless, and their other senses were severely diminished. They could only gauge their surroundings based on the movements of the water. There are 8 5th-tier zombies, and not too far off, the wreckage of an alien spaceship. Luo Ying sensed a brutal battle taking place nearby and spotted the cause of it all, the alien escape ship. The individuals in the spaceship were merely ordinary zombies. Unable to withstand the pressure of the water, they were crushed into blood mists, leading to the spread of the zombie virus in the deep sea, and eventually the surfaces of shallower waters and land, hence engulfing the globe. Octopuses, killer whales, anglerfish, jellyfish, etc., these 8 marine creatures had undergone drastic changes when they turned into zombies. The tentacles of the octopus sprouted eyeballs, each furnished with a mouth. A head had formed at the tail end of the killer whale, making it hard to locate its brain's location. The anglerfish had grown immense, with a length of 15 meters. Its forehead's protruding organ was no longer lantern-shaped but had transformed into a human head. These 8 zombified marine creatures, which had experienced drastic changes compared to their previous lives, had gathered here, among which the 6th-tier zombie would be born. Before this, there were a lot more 5th-tier zombies compared to now. Still, they had been fighting amongst themselves to the point that only these 8 were left. "We should hold back and wait until there are only 7 of them left," said Luo Ying. Having more 5th-tier zombies wasn't necessarily better, as it would be hard for them to fend off so many opponents at once. Having lesser zombies would mean too many brain nuclei have been absorbed by the 5th-tier zombies, making it harder for them to defeat, as they are not ordinary 5th-tier zombies anymore. They had to keep the number of 5th-tier zombies at a level that the 4 of them could handle. After observing, Luo Ying concluded that 7 would be an optimal number. The other 3 understood Luo Ying's intention, nodded in agreement and began to amass their energy. In the end, the jellyfish was defeated and killed by the octopus. As the octopus absorbed the jellyfish's brain nucleus, its body started to glitter, advancing one step towards becoming a 6th-tier zombie. Luo Ying made an attacking gesture, and was the first to join the fight, with the other 3 following closely behind him. The octopus, killer whale, and anglerfish were the toughest among the remaining 7 zombies. They chose them as the opponents, while the remaining 4 zombies have been left for the other 3 to handle. The zombies were stunned by Luo Ying's actions, which quickly turned into anger. How dare these puny humans interfere with their fight? However, the zombies soon found that among the humans, there were some strong individuals. The flying dragon shattering mountain fist was a formidable blow, and the 3 zombies opposing Luo Ying were having difficulty dealing with it. These 3 zombies temporarily put aside their differences and teamed up to fight Luo Ying. On the other hand, the battle between the 4 zombies and the 3 individuals didn't show any obvious advantage toward either side. They were evenly matched. No one on Luo Ying's side used weaponry, all relied on their bodies to fight directly. The power of the 5th tier was so massive that they couldn't find any weapon that could handle such strength. Die! Luo Ying roared. His heart and mind were united, and his punches were invincible. He managed to manifest a spectral dragon with his blow. No one could withstand the onslaught of the dragon. When the coordinated attack of the 3 zombies faltered, Luo Ying seized this opportunity, swinging punches and breaking through one by one. His black hair fluttered, and his eyes were blood red. He looked like an ancient war god reborn, causing a shudder of fear. Upon eliminating the enemies, Luo Ying immediately went to assist the others. There was some resistance from the other 4 zombies, but with combined force from Luo Ying's side, they got rid of them all. Did we actually succeed? When the last zombie was killed, Luo Ying still couldn't believe it. He had participated in the fight with the acceptance of certain death, but surprisingly, under Zhang Li's guidance, his power had greatly increased, and he was successful. If the previous him had come here, it would have been optimistic to call it a 1 in 10 chance of survival. This wasn't just about eliminating all the marine zombies, it also meant that the human side would have 7 5th-tier brain nuclei. Whether this was to create a 6th-tier striver or to create a few 5th-tier strivers, either was possible. The zombies on land would stand no chance against the strengthened humans. Victory was at hand for humans. Thud! Luo Ying looked down to find a blade-shaped piece of metal piercing his heart. In disbelief, he turned to look at his 3 companions. Why? We had just one, so why did they kill him? And where did the weapon come from? Luo Ying had so many questions, but he could feel his life ebbing away rapidly and he was unable to speak. Seeing that Luo Ying was still conscious, the person who held the blade twisted it, shredding Luo Ying's heart. Why? Of course, because you're too strong. We're going to establish a new country, and you, as the strongest among humans, would be a destabilizing factor. Hence, you need to be eliminated, one of them replied with a deceitful smile. As for the weapon, of course, it was taken from the wreckage of the spaceship close by. As expected of an alien material, it can pierce the body of a 5th-tier striver. SEARH the November ELF, IR.net. Luo Ying's pupils dilated, and he died harboring a profound hatred. You 3 traitors are going to die. Suddenly Luo Ying realized that he was full of life. He sprang up and shouted in anger. However, when he saw what was happening, he was baffled. Bright sunshine, clean classrooms, college entrance exam countdown, surprised classmates, and a teacher who looked more furious than him. Luo Ying. The teacher shouted at Luo Ying angrily, if you don't want to study and sleep during class, that's one thing, but what's all this insanity you're causing now? How are you guys still alive, and where are the zombies? Luo Ying blurted out. He remembered that on the day the zombie outbreak started, the school fell, and only he, among all his classmates, had survived. The teacher looked furious and was about to erupt in anger, but Luo Ying suddenly realized something and hurriedly asked, what year is this? The teacher sneered without answering Luo Ying's foolish question, and the students chuckled to themselves. They didn't know why Luo Ying was being so bold today, challenging the teacher's patience time and again. Luo Ying took out his phone that he had secretly brought and looked at the date displayed on the screen. His pupils shrank. He would never forget this date. The day of the zombie crisis. He was back 10 years ago. Luo Ying fell to his knees, clutched his phone, and burst into tears. There was still time for everything. His deceased sister, zombified friends. There was still a chance to change everything. Chapter 120 to 120 Great Ambition. Chapter 120. Chapter 120 Great Ambition. This world will become a world of zombies, you all take care. After emotionally breaking down and crying, Luo Ying left these complex words to his classmates and teachers before rushing out of the school. If he could save his classmates and teachers, he would choose to stay at the school. Unfortunately, he was too weak to save them, and he might even end up getting himself killed. With the apocalypse coming, Luo Ying knew there were many things to prepare: food, water, weapons, tapes, and so on, but these were not the most important. The most important was his sister. His sister would die today, which would be the most painful thing in his life. He had to reverse this. Hey, Zhu, don't go outside today, don't open the windows, just stay at home and wait for me to come back. He called his sister, Luo Zhu, and anxiously said. Oh, came a weak voice from the other end of the phone. Luo Zhu, his sister, was 2 years younger than him. She was in her first year of high school, studying at the same school as him. However, she was resting at home today because she had a fever. Today, zombie whales would land, their mouths filled with tens of thousands of zombified fish. These fish would be the cause of the city becoming a nest of zombies. In his previous life, when he finally escaped from the school and rushed home, he found a window opened, a fish fell from the sky into the house, and his sister was infected. Things like this absolutely cannot happen again in this life. Fortunately, there was still some time before the zombie whales would land. He had enough time. My name is Luo Ying, 28 years old, a former 5th-tier enhancer, known as the Shadow King, almost solved the zombie crisis, but was betrayed at the crucial moment, attacked by 3 5th-tier enhancers, and died with resentment. Now I've reincarnated back to 10 years ago. Even though my current body is that of an ordinary person, I have memories and combat experience from the future 10 years. Everything I lost, all those who betrayed me, all have to be taken back. In this life, I will always be a few steps ahead. I have to become a 6th-tier enhancer. No, 6th tier is not enough, I have to become an 8th-tier enhancer. Luo Ying declared aloud on his way home. Oh, is that so? Good ambition. Someone suddenly praised Luo Ying in his ear, which startled him. He instinctively jumped to one side and adopted a combat stance. He saw the newcomer, his pupils contracted. Zhang Li. His brain worked fast. As for Zhang Li, he only knew that he came from another world and was incredibly powerful. Aside from that, he knew nothing. Seems Mr. Zhang had come to this world 10 years ago. You are. Luo Ying pretended not to recognize Zhang Li. Luo Ying thought that the matter of his reincarnation was too strange. Even if he told others, they wouldn't believe it. Even if someone as powerful as Mr. Zhang wouldn't necessarily believe it. Moreover, reincarnation was his biggest trump card, which must not be revealed. He knows Mr. Zhang, but Mr. Zhang doesn't know him. He could play an intelligence gap, establish a good relationship in advance, and learn how to become as powerful as Mr. Zhang. Luo Ying already had a series of plans in his heart. Have you lost your memory in only a few days? Luo Ying's amateurish acting skills were seen through by Zhang Li, who teased him about still having his previous memories. Ah, have you also been reborn 10 years ago, sir? Luo Ying asked awkwardly. Reborn my ass. Zhang Li said to himself whether he was reborn or not didn't make any difference, he was already in the Mahayana stage 10 years ago. Tell me what happened. Zhang Li could roughly guess what had happened, but he still had to confirm with Luo Ying. Luo Ying didn't hide anything about the successful birth of the 6th-tier zombie after Zhang Li's departure, the chaotic battle amongst the 5th-tier zombies, the near-successful rescue of humanity, and the betrayal by his companions. He told it all to Zhang Li. I thought I was really dead. I didn't expect to come back to 10 years ago. Luo Ying expressed his sentiments. The whole thing was very strange. Even though he had experienced it personally, he still found it hard to believe that he had truly been reborn. SEARH the November EL Fire. NET. Indeed, it's magic. Although he didn't understand the specific reason, Zhang Li made a judgment from the system's abnormalities. It might have something to do with the fragments of the ladder to immortality. The Banan Tower shook its body. It probably knew where the zombies of Buddha Land went. Since everything was back to 10 years ago, those zombies naturally returned to their positions 10 years ago. Have you encountered any strange incidents? Zhang Li asked again. Luo Ying was lost in thought, and then suddenly realized. Upon your reminder, there really is. I found a pendant while sorting out my parents' relics. At that time, I had a wound on my hand and the blood smeared the pendant. the pendant dissolved into light and entered my body. But I didn't notice any effect, so I didn't pay attention to it. You mean, the reason I was able to be reborn was because of the pendant? Zhang Li nodded. The pendant should be a fragment of the ladder to immortality, he just didn't know why it was in the shape of a pendant. Bai Hong, get me in touch with Immortal Elder. Zhang Li called out to Bai Hongtu, inquiring about the supposedly omnipotent Immortal Elder. Zhang Li briefly explained the situation. The Immortal Elder thought for a moment, saying, theoretically, it's possible. The ladder to immortality is the proudest creation of the immortal realm, made by the joint efforts of many powerful beings, containing the way of space, the way of time, the way of cause and effect, etc. Each world has a different flow of time, and in order to unify them, the immortal realm uses the ladder to immortality to connect the 10,000 realms, adjusting all the worlds, time flow to the same speed as the immortal realm. If, as you said, this child has fragments of the ladder to immortality in their body, it could be the part that embodies the way of time. In order to prevent the host from dying, it could have reversed time. It should only be the time in that world that has been reversed. The fragments of the ladder to immortality aren't powerful enough to rewind the time of the 10,000 realms. It's still the year 4801 in JoJo. Zhang Li now understood why the system didn't respond until now. Before, Luo Ying had fragments of the ladder to immortality in his body, but there was no movement, so the system couldn't detect it. When Luo Ying died and the fragments of the ladder to immortality reversed time, the system detected it. The Immortal Elder continued. Do you want to extract the fragments of the ladder to immortality from this child's body? I don't know how to do it. Zhang Li confidently said. No problem, I have a way. What way? The Immortal Elder was curious. Help this child solve the zombie crisis. The Immortal Elder thought Zhang Li was critically ill. Due to the language barrier, Luo Ying didn't understand what Zhang Li and the old man on the other side of the phone were talking about. However, he intuitively felt that it seemed to be related to him. Zhang Li turned his head and said to Luo Ying, let's make a deal. I'll help you solve the zombie problem, and you give me the thing that allowed you to reincarnate. Quote. Luo Ying was overjoyed. With such a powerful ally, the zombies would be eradicated before they can even cause a problem. Countless lives would be saved, so he naturally agreed. The Immortal Elder, seeing how happy these two were, couldn't help pouring cold water. Zhang Li, don't say I didn't warn you. You may not be able to directly influence this world, you can only transmit messages like sounds. Huh.